Hello, folks. Today we're joined by a well renowned builder and content creator within the Empyrion community. His build style ranges from the practical and efficient to the charming. The content that he creates for Empyrion ranges from Let's Plays to guides that educate players on how to make efficient resource gains and min max their playthroughs. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Movado. Hello
Oh, well,
there.
thank you. Hello, thank you. That was really nice. No, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to kind of getting to know you and kind of honored that you kind of picked me for this. So definitely looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, as I had mentioned before, a lot of your builds get a lot of love, and there's some cult followings within various factions, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
That's-
For sure.
So, how did you get into Empyreon?
It's actually a bit of a story. So it actually started, if I'm being honest, with Skyrim, as weird as that sounds. So I played Skyrim for a really long time, and at that point, I was always a single player person. I never played online games. Gaming was kind of always my recharge, getting away from reality, play some video games, and just kind of relax type of thing. Love Skyrim, so I decided to buy Elder Scrolls Online. I played that for a little bit, realized it was an MMO after I bought it. I didn't really like it very much, but then about a year or two later, one of my wife's friends actually was big into Elder Scrolls, and she's like, "You got to come back and play it. It's a ton of fun." I'm like, "Okay, I'll give it a shot." So she helped me out, helped me out with some of the mechanics of it. Really enjoyed that. Played that for a while, and then she's like, "Hey, we play 7 Days to Die. You should come over and try that." And I have actually, before that, familiar with 7 Days. I actually didn't like the concept of it. It was never some game that I would have picked out just by myself. But I decided to give it a shot. I played for a little bit, and I got hooked in 7 days. And really, between Elder Scrolls and 7 Days, that's where my online gaming started. While I played 7 Days, I found this one Discord server called 7 Days to Bry, and there was a couple guys in there that played Empyreon, and they started posting about it. And that was back probably in Alpha 11 or Alpha 12, somewhere around there. It was before the full Galaxy was released. And I remember them posting the update saying, "Hey guys, this is a really big update." It's when they went to the full Galaxy. If anyone's interested, you should now is a good time to buy. So I bought the game. I think it was Alpha 12. I think when V1 came out is when I actually started to play the game. And they stood up a server. It was a no waits volumes, vanilla server. Played with some people, and that's kind of where it just took off. I really enjoyed the building aspect of it. That's actually one thing I really enjoyed in 7 Days to Die was just the base building aspect, the horde knights, kind of using my creativity to outsmart or kind of beat different things you run into in the game. Played vanilla for probably, I don't know, 1,000, 1,200 hours, which is a lot. Made a lot, did a lot of content, built some ships for vanilla, and then I found Reforged Eden 2, and that's where I've probably spent the last, I don't know, 4,000 hours between RE and RE2 and creative mode. I think right now I'm up to like 5,500 hours or something like that.
Nice.
So it's been kind of a journey of going from like, a single player, never playing online to the online community that it is now.
Wonderful. So creative was a big draw for you, or would you say that the survival aspect was the bigger draw for you?
It was always survival. For me, creative was always a means to accomplish my goals in survival. Whenever I was in survival, I would see something I wanted to complete, and then I challenge myself. I'm like, I want to accomplish this goal. I'm like, I want to build it myself, and then I'm going to do it. And that's kind of how I've built a lot of these ships. Is I start with some small goal, and then I build it, and then I execute. And I take it into the game itself, and I have fun with it. So it's always been very much a survival drive for me.
Yeah. So 7 Days to Die builder game. Have you played any other builders? Maybe like Minecraft or
No, I've never played Minecraft. I play like Valheim is probably another one. It's not really I mean, that's a little bit of building, base building. I'm trying to think. I love Pal World, by the way. That's a lot of fun. There's a little bit of base building in there. I'm trying to think what else. I'm just going to go through my. I started Nightingale recently. That's more of a more recent one. Played a little Green Hell. Played some Raft. Icarus a little bit. But I think those are really, if I'm looking through my game list, really the only ones that involve building. Other than this, I played a lot of like Civilization and Borderlands. Played some Bioshock. Far Cry. Some of those other games were really big before I got into the online universe.
What sci-fi themes have had the biggest impact on you?
You know what's funny is I you know if we look at my ships, I've got a couple that are really Star Wars driven, but when it comes to sci-fi, I don't know if there's one particular that really has resonated with me because when I came into Empyrion, I didn't have a sci-fi mindset in building ships. In fact, at some point I'll pull up my the first couple ships that I built because they're just absolutely awful. But they're good to show from where I've come from to where I am. But like the first ones, I remember building it, and one of the guys goes to me, and you'll see why he said this to me. He's like, "Well, have you ever watched any sci-fi shows?" I'm like, well, no, but that's a good point. And that was a light bulb moment for me when somebody's like, well, have you ever watched sci-fi? And then it's like, oh, I get it. Now people are building replicas out of like their favorite TV shows or, other types of things they see, other games that they've played. Um, so for me, there hasn't really been anything that's really driven me. Some of the stuff, like you'll see some replicas in here, I have used, but really I kind of wing a lot of my builds if I'm being honest.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. I think um, I guess maybe one of the big things for me, and I don't, always curious if this applies to other builders, but having like my own theme within the game to build on, which is my creation, my
Yeah.
inspiration and stuff like that. Having that, but then also like trying to emulate some of the more popular sci-fi things. I think it's a good like toggle because maybe I get burned out in one thing and maybe doing my own thing, but then I have pleasure from trying to make like Star Wars stuff like that. So
Yeah,
kind of
you make some beautiful ships, honestly, and I don't even like part of the reason I don't look at that stuff is because I struggle sometimes with the block geometry and how to put it all together, and I just don't know how to always build. And over the years, you'll see like if you look at my really old builds, they're square blocks, they're 45-degree angles, and that's really it because that's all I knew how to do. Some of my newer stuff I learned over the time, and I find like builds like yours really confusing, and they hurt my brain if I try to figure out how to build them like that. So that's why a lot of my stuff just doesn't have as much detail. But I've learned over the years by looking at other people's builds. Like when I built Zeus, I spawned in a Polaris ship, a Tovera, a Trader Dreadnought, and I was looking at all those as I mean, I had a Helios in there, I had Spanges, I think he has an RFO3 lifter. So that was really when I built Zeus, the first ship that I used influence from other people, but it was really in-game influence versus like a Star Wars, Star Trek kind of thing or any
yeah.
other sci-fi thing.
Well, so like I've said before, it's like art's in the eye of the beholder. So, one person in the community may look at my builds and they're good looking or whatever, but they may not have interest because they're not 100% effective or they're not 100% efficient or cost effective or something like that. And maybe they look at something like a soul siphon and you got a good layer of decoys here and it's all Xeno looks like so it could be purpose driven for legacy. So they pop something in like that before one of the most beautiful builds in the game, and to them this is a form of art because it's an effective weapon built for a specific function.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And
Um,
that's how I always try to build stuff is I always try to build it with a function in mind and how can I make it as best at accomplishing that function, which is
yeah,
probably obvious in a lot of my builds.
yeah. So what would you say your favorite sci-fi theme is? Like Star Wars or Star Trek or
Star Wars for sure. I do like Star Wars. That's probably my favorite one. There's a couple Star Wars builds in here. I've never been a big Trekkie, if I'm being honest. I actually think, going back to my childhood, because I'm in my 40s right now, so Star Trek was a big thing when I was, in the 90s. I was in my teenage years, and the house that I grew up in, I was telling you before we started the stream, I grew up on a farm, so farmers just typically aren't Trekkies. At least the house that I grew up in they weren't Trekkie kind of people. So that wasn't a show that I could ever really watch. But I still remember coming in the house a couple times, turning on the TV and seeing some things with Star Trek. I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. But then it's like, okay, my parents come and change the channel, and that was kind of my exposure to it. I think I would probably like Star Trek if I had the opportunity, but I just never went back and watched it. But I love Star Wars. I love the movies. I love the series. Um, The Matrix, absolutely love The Matrix. One of my favorite movies. I know it's not a sci-fi, but I feel like they're kind of, in a way, maybe linked.
Has anyone within the build community influenced you?
Yeah, I mean, so when I first started playing, right, you first pick up the game and you can't build from the start because you don't know what you're doing. The first two ships I picked up, one of them was a Spange. It was a little Nightshade. It's a little level 7 SV. And I remember looking at things thinking it was the fanciest thing in the world, but just some of the design things that Spange use are really cool. And then the first combat ship that I built was actually by Ice Wolfen, and it was his Black Pearl. It
Yeah.
was more of a daily, like kind of a mobile base kind of ship, but my first time playing, I had no idea the difference between a combat ship and a mobile ship. So of course I take it up against an Imrat and I get holes blown in me in seconds. But that's why I learned the difference between a mobile base and whatever. So they definitely influenced me. You know, like I was saying before, there's Jay Randall. I mean, everyone who hasn't been influenced by Jay Randall. I mean, when I started going through doing coloring, a lot of my first builds were the default color palette. And it wasn't until I really started looking at like Jay Randall's Helios and I looked at his different shades of grays that he would use and just doing those different, just those slight changes of shades make a lot of difference. And I never learned that. I didn't understand that until I started looking at like his ships. Obviously, Vermilion's done a ton of builds. I mean, I mentioned that the Toveras and all the in-game stuff. I've looked at some of that for just reference points. I mean, your stuff is fantastic, honestly. There's a lot of builders out there. I mean, I could probably name a dozen of them. Stan, I mean, some of my ships have similarities to Stan for sure, like
Hmm.
the Chelone C3 Max. You know, Stan's a great builder, and there's some things I learned from him about block work and transitions and just doing different I don't know how to say the blocks that kind of give details that
Yeah.
it's not like a straight line. You get this little chunk in there or whatever. So, yeah, there's definitely been a lot. I'm sure there's many I'm forgetting, but there's definitely some from the community that I'm like, well, that's a really cool ship, or really cool features, or really cool designs. Admittedly, I'm not big into looking at the workshop. I probably should look at it more. So I probably miss a lot of things. Artemis, I use his IMR. That was the first combat ship I used when I played Reforged Eden 2. And it was actually the reason why when I built my Soul Crusher, why I put the thrusters out at the edges. Soul Siphon, same thing. It's basically the same concept where I've got all those thrusters kind of out and high into the back. And I learned I learned how to do thruster placement based on some of his ships.
Yeah.
So yeah,
What would you say your completion rate is for the builds that you start?
extremely high, almost all like 99%.
Wow.
Like I don't really have any uncompleted ships. I can't remember. There's maybe like one or two concepts I've started that I could just they just weren't they were bad ideas and I never finished them. But like out of all these ships here, I have zero other variants that were slightly different that I didn't like.
Yeah.
What I do though is when I release something to the workshop, that for me that's not the final version. That's step one, and I can continue to revise and tweak it over time. Whereas I think some people, when they build a ship, they release it to a workshop, and that's the final state. That's the way it is. Or maybe they'll like if there's a problem, if they forget a device like a wireless extender or O2 station or gravity gen, whatever it is, they'll maybe mod that in. I'll continue to revise over and over and over. Like some of my ships have dozens upon dozens of workshop updates because I'll keep revising them as I play with them in the game and as I learn. And some of them, like, I'll add detailing to it. You look at like the Soul Siphon, you look at some of the texturing and block work, and like the bottom of it, you know, that's significantly different than the Soul Crusher. They're based on the same ship, but I learned block work combinations and you know just whatever. So they you know I've upgraded to make them look fancier, if you will.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
What part of the build process is most time consuming for you?
You know, when I started, it was probably texturing. Now you know, what's funny, when I first started, people told me, well, once you build long enough, you'll start to develop a pattern and blocks, not that the blocks texture themselves, but certain blocks carry certain textures.
Yeah.
So it used to be when I started, it was the texturing, and now I think it's it's probably some of the blockwork detail that I struggle with, because I think I was saying this before, that I struggle with some of the geometry, and I know what I want, but I don't always know where to find the blocks in the menus, or I don't know what I'm all capable of. So I think it's just the transitions and the fine details that some people like yourself and others have really mastered in the build process. That's probably what takes me the longest. Sometimes, like my Fist of Lisa ship for RE2, dude, I got so mad at that build so many times. I probably abandoned that build like 5 times at least in the build process,
Yeah.
but I ended up finishing it anyway. And part of it was just because of the size limitations and putting everything in, and the weapon loadouts and the turret sizes and manual weapon sizes. There's just a lot of complexity that was just different. But I love that ship the way it turned out. But yeah, when it comes to like completing them, they pretty much all in the workshop.
Okay, so you would say that the easiest thing for you now in the build process is texturing, or
I think yeah, the easiest part now, I think, sorry, I kind of went in a little circle there. Yeah, I think the texturing I find easier than the blockwork side of it.
yeah?
Uh, because like interiors, I actually kind of enjoy doing interiors sometimes to a certain extent. But yeah, I think so. I do like the blockwork is for sure harder now.
All right, so let's do this. Which of your builds is your least favorite?
Ooh, I got a good answer for this. It's not out here.
All
You want me to
right,
spawn it?
let's see.
So the ship, I'm right in front of Soul Siphon. It is a ship called Buffalo Bill. It is as disappointing as the Buffalo Bills against the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs. Equally disappointing. Okay, so I just spawned it. Are you,
uh,
do you see this red blue thing? Okay, so here's the deal. This ship, the concept behind it was fantastic. It is a warp capable SV miner. It's max drills. It's got a ton of storage. It's, if you look at the top, it's upgradable. You can put like shield parts in it. You can put generators. You can put CPU extenders. It was very well thought out in terms of everything that it includes. The reason why I hate this build and I always cringe at using it is because it just doesn't meet my agility specs in terms of how I like ships to handle. It gets stuck in holes too easily, and every time I use it, I get mad at it. I hate this build. And I don't like using it. It works, but it's just honestly out of all of them, it's my least favorite.
uh, I don't know. It's got some charm to it, right?
Yeah, a
I,
little bit.
yeah, a little bit. Go Bills.
It uh it uh it it comes down to the usability and user experience.
Yeah.
It's too clunky. Like, yeah, it's got the 8 drills. It burrows holes just fine if you're going in a straight line, but trying to turn around and whatever if you're in a hole, God help you.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Is that people want to be able to turn around within their own borehole. So that's
Yeah,
yes. Hmm.
yeah,
All right. So if that would be your least favorite, which one is your
yeah.
favorite?
My favorite build, honestly, out of all of them, is probably my Moab space station. Just because I don't have that. I don't think that's in here unless you have it somewhere else.
I might have it over here over the land. Get the solar furnace.
Otherwise, I
No,
can spawn it.
yeah, you can
Here, I can
spawn it.
spawn. It's the reason why this one's my favorite build is because the story that went into it. So when I first built this, the Moab, and it's a huge space station. Are you familiar with it at all?
I did see it. Yes.
The reason why it's my favorite build is because it said it spawned it. There it is because when I started this build, there are basically 3 main levels to it. You got the top level, which is kind of like the level you walk into. The second level down is now hydroponics, and the bottom level is all production. When I built it, the middle and top level were completely empty. I had no idea what I was going to do with those spaces, but I knew I wanted something big. The what I built this around was the bottom level where you have all the constructors. I'm not sure if you're inside of it or not.
I am. Do you have some singles, by the way?
That was a good addition, yes. Yeah. Uh, but like, so this build in general is my favorite because of the story that went behind it. I had this spawned in dozens of playthroughs. I've had tons of people play with me. I've taken influence and just inspiration from other people that have built stuff inside the space. Like, for example, Moab Medical over here. some of this medical, actually, somebody else that I played with designs or used similar concepts in their builds, and I had incorporated into mine. Like these little huts here, where these stations are in. Like somebody else actually
Yeah.
does use something similar, and I'm like, I really like that, so I put them in here. Um, but it was just iteration after iteration after iteration. When I started, it was just a production floor on the bottom level. The second floor up was basically empty, and this level was completely empty as well. And over literally years, I slowly started to build things in. I added farming to it. I added, right, the kitchen. I added teleporters. I added all this fancy block work and piping. And of course, the strippers are super important. That's what really brings it all together.
Yeah.
The strippers and gambling. So, uh, and then it's like, on top of this, I added like, Helios was super popular. So I put like the Helios spades on the outside. There's a big, you know, tunnel system around the outside that connects all the Helios systems in.
Yeah.
At some point, like it didn't have enough storage, so I added a ton more storage to it. Um, so it's just a fun story, the space station in general. And now it's at the point where I love this thing. It's probably overkill for one person, but gosh, I just like the space.
I I I like the thin block here, this frame used with the glass. I don't think I've seen that yet. So that's pretty
Oh, thank
slick,
you.
man.
Yeah, thanks. I wanted that just a little touch of color in there. The other
Yeah.
thing I like to do with the glass is you can see it's tinted black or darker where the
Mm,
letters are.
right.
So I do that in all of them just to kind of help the letters pop a little bit.
Yeah, that does provide a good contrast. It's really cool.
I have a secret hidden room in this base that I've challenged people to find, and I think I had one faction. They eventually found it. Like 3 or 4 guys probably spent 3 to 4 hours each. I think combined they probably spent somewhere 10 to 12 hours scouring this place for the secret hidden room, but eventually they found it.
Oh.
I hid a bunch of ultra rares in a box in this one secret room, and I said whoever finds it first can get the ultra rares, or get the epic weapons. Sorry, and they found them. Yeah, like this outside hallway system that you're going through wasn't there originally.
Oh,
That was
really?
like iteration 15. I'm like, oh hey, I've got all this dead space. Maybe I can cut that out and I can put a little walkway and put some seating out here. There's just so many things that I've changed in it over time. Um, I've made it smaller. I've shrunk down the landing pad a little bit. Um, yeah.
See if we can cheat and find this room.
Do you want me to show you where it is? Because you're never going to find it. We'll be here for 5 hours.
uh, I didn't even know this was. Wait a minute, hold on now. How do we get to this floor? I didn't even see that.
Right here, it's the elevator. There's only one elevator
Oh,
shaft
okay. Well, it
that goes all the way up.
makes it simple.
Hmm. So the secret room is if you go in the deep storage area down on the third floor, if you come all the way down to the bottom. So deep storage, this was an addition. I actually really like the ambiance of this area. But if we walk all the way around, down here there's a room called the green room. That's green,
Oh,
right?
was it?
Right, I
Wait,
got my...
this is the secret room?
No, there's a
No.
secret room inside the room.
Oh, hold on. Oh,
So the
okay.
secret
Behind
room,
behind this. Hold on. Don't say anything. Let me get this. It's got to be behind the container, huh? Maybe.
maybe, probably not.
Is this an LCD? Okay,
Yes,
look,
yep,
man.
you found it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's slick. I've worked with too many LCDs for that trick to
Yeah,
where you got to get up earlier than 6 a.m. to pull the wool over my eyes, man. I've seen
no
too many
kidding.
LCDs.
You played too many Vermilion's POIs, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, for sure. So this table, this little lab table, is where I hid the epics in. And then I'm
Okay.
like, I took a picture of this corner. I'm like, whoever finds that lab table first, you get the epics. And it was just a little fun little scavenger hunt.
Is it that I think maybe these walls need to be darker to match up with that LCD? I think that would have.
Yeah, for some reason the lighting's changed. It used to be closer. You're right. It is a little different. The lighting is a little bit different here for sure.
Yeah. Let's see. Do we have
And I,
enough power? Yeah. It might be. Yeah, it just might be the time of day.
yeah. Yeah, because if you're in outer space, it blends pretty well.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, it's different on a planet.
But otherwise, this is just all storage. This is really all RP kind of stuff. So this is some of the stuff I do for RP, putting in the builds. Like initially, all these container controllers were buried and you could never access them. But I decided to core out this whole area so you could kind of have that library archives vibe, if you will.
To get that feel, what's the cargo capacity on here?
Yeah, it's a lot. There's like probably 65 640s.
Whoa. One and
Yeah,
done, man. That's the only base you'd ever need for a large faction.
it for
65.
sure is.
That's
Yeah,
insane.
yeah. I consolidated them all. So they used to all be 320s, and then I consolidated them all down to 640s. I think I got them all to 640,
Yeah.
including like the constructors. I put them in the floor. Those are all 640s. Some of the ones in the walls I wasn't able to, but dedicated storage for everything you need if you want to separate out all your materials. And if you have a faction, gosh, you need that much space.
Yeah, you really do.
So yeah, this is my favorite build by far.
Uh, so this is in RE2. How bad are the like a fully filled out container system hidden? You know, with the energy in and the CPU cost. That'd be a question I'd have.
Yeah, so that's why if you look at the front, it might violate block limits just by a couple solar panels, just by one or two. I've I've
Yeah,
thought I've thought about going through and cut. So you could. The one thing I forgot about is in RE2 you can put the plasma
turbines.
turbines on it. So like if I strip this down and I put all the plasma turbines on it, you could probably get it negative solar power. I actually don't think because what is it using? 14 kilowatts right now? No. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's using a 14 kpu. That's a weird metric.
Well, I think it's gonna be skewed on planet.
Gotcha. Yeah, so you can run it. You can run it free for sure in outer space, but that's the challenge with RE2 is that things use a lot more power. So it almost seems like you're better off splitting up your bases into individual ones.
Yeah.
But if you play block limits off, you could spawn this on a server, and I think it's got 96 solar panels on it, so you generate about 100 kilowatts of power.
Wonderful. Looks like you got turret extensions there for some defense.
Yeah. I added those. I've never used them just in case, but like nobody ever spawns bases like this in hostile areas, so they're kind of worthless at the end of the day. And then like Wi-Fi coverage, there's like matter trans receivers, I guess they're called, or Wi-Fi extenders in each quarter of the pads, of the landing pads, so it gets really good Wi-Fi coverage all over.
So you have within your library a couple of builds that are your first CVs.
I do. Do you want to see them?
Sure.
Oh, this is fun. Okay, so I like to keep these because it's really, for me, I sometimes go back at them, I laugh at myself at how bad of a builder I was. So to tell you the story, the first combat ship I ever built was weights and volumes not compliant. Weights and volumes were off. And I told you before, the first ship I ever used was the Black Pearl by Ice Wolfen, and I took it up against an Imrat, and I proceeded to get holes punched in me right away. So my takeaway in that instance is, well, the problem with that ship is all the turrets didn't face the front, so they all couldn't shoot, which is completely wrong. That wasn't the problem. But so I solved that problem with the Annihilator, the ugliest ship in the world. Now let's come to the front of it. So
Okay.
so
Okay.
I put all the turrets and all the weapons in the front of the ship, thinking, okay, that's going to help me beat things. And honestly, as bad as the balance is in vanilla, I could beat Legacy with this ship. Believe it or not, I was beating Legacy Decimators and Infectors no problem.
Yeah.
I built this ship. One of the downfalls. So my takeaway, this is how far I've come. My takeaway from building this ship is I looked at this and all these little pods, these turrets pointing down on the front. Somebody pointed out to me, they're like, "Hey, those ones that point down can't actually point straight forward, so
Yeah.
they're not getting used." I'm like, "Oh, well, that's a good idea. I didn't know that." So then I built my second ship. And if you want to go through the inside of this one, like there's minor detailing, there's some texturing, there's some basic LCDs, there's a hangar. Um, right? I even put the Annihilator name up there, painted it. Underneath, it's not block limits compliant or any or whatever weight volume, so it's just everything's crammed in here. My takeaway on this ship after I built it was I need to build a ship where all the turrets can face forward.
So,
So,
I mean,
yeah,
I can see that there's still some good effort put in here. You've got like the medical station types and things that they treat on there. So that's yeah, there's definitely some concern or some passion in here with this
yeah, for
thing.
sure. And then the gardens in there, yeah. And
Hmm.
that was like the first server I played on. Other people in the server, there's just a handful of us. Some of the other guys actually use this too, and they are able to kill stuff too. So yeah, I definitely put some time into this stuff, into what was in here. And honestly, some of this I probably like Spanges, whatever that little ship was I mentioned before. I always blank on the name. And then Ice Wolfins, I probably saw some things out of those two that I built
Yeah.
into this. So then my second one, this is going to be a fun one. I wanted to use Xeno. That's my next ship. I'm like, I want to use Xeno, right? So not knowing how hard Xeno is really to get. The second ship I built was called the Exterminator. And remember how I said my lesson from the first ship is that all my turrets didn't face forward, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so lesson learned, I built the Exterminator. All the turrets face front. All the turrets face front. It's the problem solved, right? Except what the heck was I thinking? Like this is not like so earlier when you asked me where's my sci-fi influence, it's like, well, look at this crap. There is no sci-fi influence.
Almost kind of like something from Tron. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like
exactly. So
interesting.
yeah, so that was my second build. Surprisingly, it was less effective than the first build at killing Legacy because the front of it was so big and wide. It was a huge target.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
it worked, kind of.
Interesting.
Um, so then, my next takeaway after this ship was this one's too wide. How can I make it narrower? And that's kind of where the whole series of the Soul Crusher, the Soul Siphon, the next ship I built after this is called the Excalibur. It's actually before I even know who Excalibur was, like the guy from Anvil.
Yeah.
Um, so then my first ship after that was, I want to make sure I get the right one here, was this guy. Sorry, I'm cluttering up your server with builds. So this was the Excalibur. When I built this ship, I started, and this looks super similar to all my other combat ships in RE1, because I based them off of this. I reworked it, but my concept on this is I started from the nose and I worked backwards. And I wanted a stepped turret layout, which you see here.
Hmm.
Um, the reason why the wings are where they are is because as I started to build out the nose, I got to this point and I'm like, I'm running out of turrets. I better start building the wings. And that's why the wings are where they are.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, that seems to be the big step in progression here. I mean, everything's making sense. It's like, right,
yeah.
you're firing on, okay, you got thrusters at least at the midpoint or in the rear. You've got the control station at a midpoint, so it's not at the front. Um,
Mhm.
you seem to have some of the more expensive kit towards the midsection. So like the artillery, those are in the midsection. They're not at the front. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like this is the big turn here. This is where you start hitting the stride.
Yeah, for sure. And then this was like the build that somebody else actually kind of pointed out that my style was blues and grays. And I agreed with that. I'm like, you know what, that's true. I do like blues and grays, like light blues, regular blues, grays. What I did wrong on this one, you're seeing this hole in here. There used to be like holes inside of thrusters, so sometimes you get blocks inside of them like this. So like now that doesn't happen. But
Yeah,
what I screwed up in this build is there was a thruster here right next to this generator, right next to all these fuel tanks. So this thing would chain like crazy.
right.
If you lose one thruster, it would chain, but I never really had that problem because everything would hit you in the front. But from a build-wise, it wasn't a very well-optimized build. But like you go inside of it, and the warp drive, where that is the exact same warp drive location you'll find on Soul Crusher, Soul Siphon, my other Excalibur, the CS Caliber. They're all basically, I took the hull of this and I just kept reusing it. I did trim it down, like, so you asked before, how many builds do I finish? Well, I finished them all, but like I'll keep reworking them. So like the wings on this is really square blocks, 45-degree angles. That's it, because that's all I knew how to use. If you look at all these little bump outs with the blue glowies on them, I learned that from Ice Wolfen. Those little bump outs with the blue goalies he had in his Black Pearl, same as these bars that go across the top of where the cockpit is, the blue glowy bars. He had some bars on his like that, and I'm like, I really like that. The skylights on the top of the cockpit. I'm like, oh, I really like that. So I incorporated some of his his design concepts out of the Black Pearl into this because it was the only experience I had. But I also thought his ship was really cool at the time, and it is. It was a really cool ship. But you can see thrusters everywhere, way too much thrust because I didn't know how to build. I didn't know how much thrust you needed. It's not optimized, which you expect out of first builds.
Yeah.
But all that stuff comes with time.
Right. But it's, it's certainly obvious the evolution that's going on here. Like, like I said, this looks to be where you're starting to hit your stride.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Um, so does the run end there, or is there more past that?
Oh, so I think, so these are really, there's one more. There's one more. See,
Wait, there's more.
but wait, there's more. See, for me, I sometimes struggle with how big of something you need. And when I built the Excalibur, this is a pretty big, relatively ship. Like, that's a pretty tanky ship, if you will.
Yeah.
I thought that ship wasn't big enough.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. You thought that was, wait till you see Ono. O-N-O. Ready for Ono? Right
Damn.
here's Ono. Right there is Ono. You know why it's called Ono? Because those are the last words the enemy will utter when they see this ship coming, exactly in the workshop. So this is obviously not block limits compliant. It's tons of turrets, tons of firepower, absolutely smashes everything in the game. This is where I went after the Excalibur, the next one, and then I realized that's probably overkill.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, in RE1, I mean, we could get a good portion of this filled out with the turrets and
Yeah,
such.
the thrusters would kill you.
Hmm.
Take a look at how many drive thrusters are in this thing. It's insane.
Yeah, it's like gotta be nuts.
53.
Oh yeah, that's actually insane.
It is.
One
And
point
there's
one.
some thrusters missing.
Let's see how much. What's the mass on this thing? 135 kilotons. All right. Oh, okay.
And in vanilla, this thing flies like a fighter jet.
Yeah, no, that's what's crazy, man.
Well, you put 53 thrusters in it, it's gonna fly like a fighter jet.
98 fuel tanks. All right, 1.96 million fuel capacity. So that's great. You even got some empty compartments in here, probably for decoys. Yeah.
I didn't. Oh yeah, I did put decoys in this one. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Yeah, there are decoys in there.
a large number of them.
Yeah, that was overkill because I didn't understand how decoys work necessarily, but it's not bad, I guess.
Yeah.
This might be the first ship I actually had decoys in, honestly.
Really? Wait a
Yeah.
minute. I thought. Let's see.
Well, I guess I had them in. It was probably one of the first. I guess the Excalibur. Yeah, see, the
Yeah.
Excalibur technically doesn't have decoys. It has
No.
thrusters inside of it.
Yep.
Um, but the other thing too is a lot of these ships I built without knowing what God mode was, and I didn't know what symmetry mode was.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
Okay.
like when you look at like the Annihilator, that was built on a planet without God mode, without symmetry mode. The Exterminator, same thing. I have a ship called the Pack Mule, which was it's basically a cargo hauling ship. That was built without symmetry mode. I remember multi-tooling into walls to replace things in walls as I was building it because I wanted to hide lights behind walls to get glowies to come through. So I'd multi-tool out the wall, put the light in, and then I have to re-put that block back in rather than just going into God mode and flying.
Yeah, I could see that carried out here because like these decoys, for example, are off symmetry.
Hmm.
Um, okay, let me ask you this. Did you know so when you started building, did you know about the creative scenario or were you building builds in survival?
It was creative. Yep, for
Okay.
sure.
Because some of us didn't really catch on to that. We're building builds like I think I probably put a good like 80 or 90 hours into building before I realized that there was a creative. And
That'd be
then
rough.
and then some people even put longer amounts of time. I think Moo Bear said he did like 1,000 hours or something before he realized there was a creative. Could you imagine that? That's insane.
Well, honestly, like doing it in survival is no different than how I built my first couple ships in creative because I built them on a planet. I built them without God mode. I built them without symmetry. Heck, I probably built them without a drone because I didn't even know what the drone was probably. Maybe I did
It's
use it. But like they were the most painful builds out of all the ones that I did, but I liked it because it was my first experience building and I'm like, this is new, this is fun, it's a challenge. I can build stuff that I can use in a video game and, blow stuff up.
yeah.
So
That's always the pleasure of Empyrion. It's comparatively to like space engineers, you can build builds obviously, but there isn't really that litmus test for the stuff that you build. I mean, there's a little bit of like I guess like a universal whatever kind of a little thing, but Empyrean, it's with what people have done with their contributions to it, the scenarios and stuff, it really takes off and like your build gets run to the ringer with different approaches, different enemies and stuff like that. So
yeah, for sure.
um yeah, so you built these like on Planet, and did you put them on like a stand or
No,
uh
no,
y-
that was a foreign concept to me,
yeah.
putting them on stands. So what I did is I would build the bottom of it and then I would slap thrusters on it and I'd lift it up in the air. And they were just like placeholder thrusters so I could lift it off the ground so it wouldn't tip over or fall over or I could build it the way I wanted to. But that's how I did it on the planet. I didn't use a stand.
Hmm.
Like if you look at this Excalibur right now, so I never cleared pivots on my builds for the most part, which some people are going to drop their jaw and say, "What? How could you not?" But if you look at the Excalibur, you'll see the icon is right over the front nose because that's where the original starter block was placed.
Yeah.
I literally built it front to back because I knew I wanted this as the nose, but I had no idea how the rest of it was going to be until I built it.
You don't clear pivot. That's insane. That
I didn't know
was
what.
that was the thing I didn't do for a while too, and then it really started resonating with me. Like there's some connection issues with builds and stuff like that, so I really got on board
Yeah.
with it.
I just, at the time that I kind of learned what it was, I probably had at least half my workshop done at that point, if not more. And just to kind of go back and to redo those, I never did.
Yeah,
Um,
because
I was also worried. Oh, go ahead.
it scrambles the textures when you do that.
That was what I was worried about. Not that I'm super detailed. Like I'm not a J Randall or you or many others that have these high detailed. A lot of my stuff, I actually. Okay, so earlier you asked who influenced me. Seleucidor. He
Seleucicor?
built. Yeah, 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 yeah. So he was building on stream one day, and he was building. So this is years ago. He was building the space POI that is basically a ship wedged between two asteroids. I think it's a pirate POI or something like that,
Yeah.
uh, or whatever the faction was. It's Wastelander faction. And I remember watching him on his stream, and he takes this like random approach where he'd grab a texture and he'd randomly spray it in a couple spots, and you grab a different texture and you kind of put a couple here. And I'm sure he had a more scientific approach to it, but that randomness, I looked at that, I'm like, oh, that actually looks really good. Like rather than picking a specific block for a texture, I'm just going to take a texture and randomly kind of put it in different spots. Um, and that
That was Wastelanders.
I think it was. Am I getting the name
It
wrong?
it might have it might have been script because Wastelanders is script, the
You're right.
script
It is
HD.
script.
Yeah,
Yep, you're right. It was script.
like
Yep.
yeah, we always had like a go back and forth. Like I'd watch his stream and he's like here LyfeForce, this is how you texture, and it's just like or, like you said, randomly spray everywhere.
Uh huh.
I can't do that. I'm over here. I'm like rotating blocks and stuff to get like a new panel of textures to choose from, and spending like a full work weekend on doing the outside texturing, man. Like
Yeah.
and this dude's over here just like closing his eyes, having his hand over his eyes and texturing. Like
Uh huh.
okay, yeah.
That's my style. That's my style. It's like I've told people before. Like I'm the type of builder that I get something, it gets close. I'm like, all right, I slap it. Good enough. Off to the workshop. Here we go.
Yeah. Obviously that would save time, and for something like a pirate faction, that really works out well because
Yeah.
the armoring and stuff like that's so chaotic, so that would make sense.
Yeah. But that's one thing that I remember watching is that style, and that's when I started to use textures. But it also got me off base a little bit because, like Zeus, one of the biggest complaints that people have about Zeus is it's kind of ugly on the outside, whatever. And I get
Mm-hmm.
that. I over textured it, and I over textured is where I kind of got to a part because I got to a point where I'm like, oh, people are putting these textures on blocks, so I need to put it on everything. Well, no, you don't. That looks bad. So then it was like over time I kind of refined of less is more, cutting out using more flat textures, using more accents, using some of the shades like like I was mentioned before, Jay Randall uses all those shades. That influenced me of having different color shades. One of the things I did is I made a color palette blueprint, which is nothing special. It's just a base. I'll spawn it. But this is kind of the color palette that I use. I'm not sure if you're near me.
Hold on, let me come over there. Change the
The
lighting just
lighting.
a moment.
So this is the color palette when you get over here that I kind of spent a lot of time. I like blues, greens, reds, and then the gray color, but I also like some of the brighter colors built into it as well. Um, wait for you to get close.
Yeah, I got you. I see you.
So that was kind of like after I learned the different highlights of colors, this is kind of my default. I'll throw it on every ship now, but it gives me a wide variety. And a lot of times when I build ships now, I'll build the hull without having any clue what color I'm going to paint it.
Yeah,
And then I'll build it and I get done. I'm like, okay, which color do I want to use? What's my primary color? And I'll throw that on the outside. And then I have a range of other colors that I can just dip into at all times. But um, yeah, it took me a long time to get to this palette.
good palette, good color
Yeah.
choice. Kind of like a lot of pastel colors there. I like the
Yeah. I like the brights and the darks and the mixtures. Like
hmm,
a lot of mine end up going to the blues, and I don't use the reds very much because I don't love the red colors that I have as much as I like the blues and greens. But I feel like my tint is off by a little bit on the reds, but I just don't know how to fix it, so I just deal with it. Like I said before, it's good enough. Off it goes.
yeah. um, so what items or features would you like to see added to Empyrion?
Well, I don't want anything added. I just want things fixed. Honestly, I think I've always loved the space combat. That's what draws me to the game. And if it wasn't for space combat, I probably would never play the game as long as I have. There's probably two things that drive me bonkers the most, and one of them I feel like is an easy fix, and that's the ghost block issue when you kill a CV. You can't move around within it.
Yeah,
It's easily fixed, and I say that. So years ago, I was on there. I've given them steps on how to fix this. I'm pretty sure I even filed bug reports on their forums. It's all thruster related. It's 100% thruster. So if you ever get like the ghost block ships, and maybe you might know this, but if you ever get that going on with the ship, just throw a core on it and turn the thrusters off in the P menu, and the problem's solved.
yeah,
all the invisible walls go away, but like we still have that issue after all these years. And maybe I'm oversimplifying it because I've never designed games. I've never written code. I don't know how it all works behind the scenes, but like, is it really that hard for a game to turn off the thrusters when a ship is dead? I don't think so, but I also don't know coding. I think the desync, playfield desync, is another major issue. Right, if you're in a playfield and enemy
Yeah.
CVs appear invisible,
Right.
people complain about that all the time. Beyond that, like if you talk about new features, it's hard for me to say because this is really only the only game of this genre that I've really played in terms of like the sci-fi side of it. Um, I just feel like it needs refinement. Like all the stuff is here. Space combat, building your own ships, planetary combat, scouting, stuff like that. It just feels like, the player controller, how you move around, that can be a little janky. The AI of the enemies you face, they kind of zigzag and they run around or they stand in corners, or you just kind of lose some of the immersion and the realisticness of the game itself. Like if they could fix that stuff, I think that would all be really cool. But
Yeah.
beyond that, I think it's a pretty solid game as is.
That seems to be a big one when I ask people about new features. Is like they mention just fixes. And I would have to imagine, like, for some people that aren't familiar, like the whole desync thing, like if they don't know to go 3 kilometers away from a tag, a nameplate on a ship to reset the sync, then they're going to be completely lost on how to counter
Mhm.
those issues, man.
I played on a my most recent RE2 Let's Play was done on the Ash server, Ashinator. He does a really good job. I've enjoyed being on his server, but the one thing that he does that I haven't seen anywhere else is he extended the render distance in outer space. So your
Interesting.
render distance is 8 kilometers on his server versus the normal, what is it, 3?
3, yeah.
Um, and that fixes almost all your desync.
Really?
Because desync happens, the reason why a ship desyncs is it happens, let's say there's you and another guy in the playfield. If the enemy CV goes outside of your render range and then comes back in, that's when the desync happens, is when it's rendering in and out. But if your render range is 8 kilometers, a ship generally that you're engaging doesn't get too far away to actually ever de-render, so you never have those ghost ship issues.
Hmm.
I played on his server for a whole season with other people, and we never one time had a ghost ship. Or if you have a ghost ship, you just have to get within 8 kilometers of where the icon is, which is really easy to do. It's really quick.
Yeah.
Because most of the times, like if a ship is 8 kilometers away, maybe he's 9 kilometers away, according to the map, but like you can get close enough to the icon where he'll correct himself. I wish more servers would entertain using that feature because I don't know that it really does that much for server stability. I guess that's the main driver is people don't want to crash their servers and overwhelm them.
Yeah.
Maybe on big population servers it might be worse, but that's the one thing I really liked is having that extended because it kind of fixes the desync issue. It's a band-aid for sure, but it works.
Well, and also I think if something like that's used in conjunction with like maybe people are a little bit more strict on some of the size class blueprint spawning in and that sort of thing. You know,
Yeah.
it would be one thing if there's like 3 or 4 120 size class builds that are spawning in within 8 kilometers, but if it's more sensible with some of the builds, then something like that could probably carry out a little bit more easier. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think with some of the calling that they've done, because now in outer space things don't spawn as in as much detail at longer distances, I believe. I think that helps with the playfield performance when you have a longer render range, because all the details aren't spawning in. Just because a space station 5 kilometers away spawns in doesn't mean every light and device inside that space station is in the game.
Yeah.
So that kind of helps it a little bit. So, yeah.
So just a fix of features. You wouldn't want to see anything new, like new block shapes or new devices or.
Oh gosh, I can't use all the block shapes we have. They confuse me. My brain hurts when I look at them all. There's only there's I've definitely expanded, but like there was new block shapes added a year ago or
Hmm.
so. I don't think I've ever used a single one of those.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I actually don't know which ones they are in the menu, and they like again they probably confuse me a little bit, so I haven't touched them.
Yeah. So this is like one aspect of your Empyrion contributions with the workshop stuff, but also you create content for the game. Um, so what compelled you to do that? What got you on board with that? Make wanting to do content?
Yeah. So that started in Elder Scrolls Online. The first thing I ever did, if anyone's played Elder Scrolls Online, they've probably heard of the Veteran Maelstrom Arena (VMA). It's the hard at the time. It was the hardest single player content in the game, and I was able to get in there, and I was able to beat the VMA arena. And the guilds that I was in, people were just struggling. They didn't understand the mechanics. They couldn't beat the levels. And that was before I even did audio. It was just straight game recording without my voice at all in there. So I recorded all the levels of the play of the VMA run. There's nine levels, and I uploaded them to YouTube and I shared them in the Discord. And that was the first thing I ever recorded. It was really to help people. The reason why I did it was to help people. And then I think, gosh, I think the next content after that was really 7 Days to Die. And I think I did some base building content, like showing people how to build bases that I was building, like all these different, there's um, you know, early game bases, end game bases, some concept I've tried. I tried doing like testing against like if you played 7 Days to Die, like the Demolisher, stuff like that. I was doing testing and uploading them because I was seeing questions or I was curious myself how this worked. But I see other people asking it, so then I upload it to YouTube. But really, it was just all about like helping other people and showing stuff on YouTube. And then I get into Empyrion and I start doing some of the same thing, just doing a couple videos here and there of how to do this, whatever it was. I forget some of my earlier ones. And then after I did a few videos, somebody posted on my channel, to one of my videos. They're like, "Hey, we would really like to see you do a Let's Play series. You should consider doing it." And at that time, I had no interest. Like, it's not that I didn't have an interest. It's just like, why would anyone want to watch me? I'm just an average guy that plays the game, right? It was kind of my thought. So over time, eventually, I'm like, okay, well, I'll do one. We'll just see how it does, and I kind of enjoyed it, and that's kind of where it all took off. Is I just do it for fun. Like, I'm not trying to be a content creator full time. Like, I have a full time job Monday through Friday. I'm busy during the week, and this is just kind of my break. And this has always been, gaming has always been a hobby for me, and I kind of want it to stay a hobby, but at the same time, I like teaching people and helping people, and that's kind of been my motivation. So that's why I want to keep it casual though, because at the end of the day, I don't want gaming to be work. I don't want it to be a responsibility that I feel obligated to do. It's why I intermittently post stuff. It's why I go months without posting anything. I just
Yeah.
it's kind of how I feel at the time. And RE2 came out. Hey, let's do a new series. That'll be fun. But like, I'm not going to do RE2 series after RE2 series. Like stuff like that. I did like a little bit in Valheim. I've thought about doing some in 7 Days. I haven't done actual play series there. But yeah, that's kind of how I got started into it. And then, as people have watched, they've encouraged me and they've supported me, and I feed off that encouragement and that positivity, and that's kind of what kept me going. Is I get those positive comments. People like my style or whatever, how focused I am. I try to do shorter videos, which I think people like, and that positivity is kind of what keeps me coming back to it.
Yeah, I've dialed up your videos a few times looking for shortcuts on getting X item or resources or something to that effect. So yeah, definitely contributing in that regard. Let's see here. Looking at let's have a look at some of your SVs.
Yeah.
Let's start with that. Was this a Yaliter?
Oh, see, you got to read the name. It's the SV. See you later.
Oh, okay, all right. So
Because this is a core only warp ship. It was basically like my concept of, okay, so I'll do concept builds. I'll have an idea in my mind. I'm like, can I make a warp capable SV that is a core only build? And that was my goal. And then I built this ship. That's how this one came to light. But it was like I was trying to come up with a name, and it's like it's the cheapest warp vessel I could come, and I'm like, the SV. See you later.
All right, you're clever over here. I got you. I I caught on with your HVs, and we'll look at that here in a second.
All right.
Yeah, you got a
And
funny.
then at some point, I lost the creativity for names, and I went to Greek names. Some people probably think I'm like a Greek master, but I don't know anything about Greek mythology. When I go to name a ship, I'll literally name like, what's the Greek goddess of resource collecting? What's the Greek goddess of the color white? What's the, and I'll Google something of similar nature, and that's how I'll name it.
Yeah. So
Warp sled.
right, that's kind of essentially just a yeah, simple park something in the back and haul it.
Yeah, it was really so I didn't have to spawn Buffalo Bill. It's like this replaces Buffalo Bill, and I love it.
Now, something like this would make sense for RE2 now that we can warp out of the system.
Yeah, this is I built this in RE2. This is one of my newest builds.
Oh, is it? Yeah, that's right. My bad.
Yeah, we docked like 3 ships to the back of it. It looked gangly, but we got it. We got it there. Lucothea, yeah, I love this ship. This is one I built earlier in RE1. Um, yeah, I don't know. It was just a unique for me. It's a unique style, the white and the black. Super powerful. This is Lucothea Deuce, so this is the RE2 version. But yeah, I really like this ship because it's compact, it's fast, it's got a good amount of storage, it can handle high Gs, turns around in holes no problem. A couple miniguns, a shield.
20K harvest, not bad.
Yeah, yeah. So that was that one. And then you got the 2 other variants here. You've got Ino, which is the blue one. Yeah, super zippy.
Very nice.
This is the Salvager. So this one, what I did is I actually extended the back of it and I added more storage, so it's got a full 32K. Because it doesn't have to burrow. This could not turn around underground. But it's just a salvager. Those are SV industrial multi-tools.
So these other two, these could turn around.
Yeah, the Leucothea is really good. This
Hmm.
turns around underground no problem.
Nice.
As does Hades, the green one over here.
Yeah.
They're both identical size. The difference between this one and Leucothea is the plasma thrusters versus ion thrusters.
Okay.
It's a core 7 versus core 6. Um, but yeah, this is the Hades is what I would build right now if I could build a high gravity SV.
Yeah, this thing must be sick with plasma. That'd be nuts
Yeah,
as far as the agility. And then, like, if you go to antimatter, oh man.
yeah, and it's good. Like if you go to like a midnight planet, you can fly down on a midnight planet, fill this thing up with gold ore, and fly right off the planet, no problem. So like
Beautiful.
some of my early playthroughs, sometimes what I'll do is I'll take usually my miner 69er, which I know is over there somewhere. That's a lot of times my first ship. I'll dock a miner like Lucothea or Hades to the outside of miner 69er, and I'll park it right outside, out in the outer space, right outside the planet. I'll jump in the SV, hop down, mine out my gold, and I'll pop back up and I'll dump it into my miner 69er.
Nice. Uh, the pogo dual roll,
Yeah,
like a pogo stick. Is that
it
what?
kind of. So I think actually Javai, is that his name from Anvil?
Yeah.
I was building this and I shared a screenshot. I think he actually made the comment. He's like, "That looks like a pogo stick." I'm like, "That's its name, pogo." Thank you for the encouragement. I have like 3 versions. So this is another one right here. Very similar. The only difference between the two is this one's got miner. This is a miner and Gatling guns on it. The base one was just Gatling guns.
Hmm.
It was an attempt to make a vertical ship. I kind of like it. It's kind of a little unique. Functionally wise, it's not perfect because when you land on a planet, it tends to tip over.
Yeah, it kind of gives me some vibes of like Boba Fett ship.
Mm. Oh
What?
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Now, certainly this thing can't bore its own hole, right? This would be like an astral
Uh,
miner or something.
well, no, but this one can. I just spawned another one here.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, all right, yeah.
So that was yeah. So I was yeah. This dual roll kind of sucks because it can't bore anything. It'd be fine for an asteroid, but
Right.
the outside of it. But yeah. But then after I built this one's kind of a pain too because it doesn't burrow. It'll burrow fine, but it's not a round drill pattern, so you tend to get stuck underground, and that's when I went to a different one. I don't know if you have Aizon out here. I might not even be pronouncing it right. This is one of those Greek names that I'm not sure the proper pronunciation.
I might be able to get it.
So this guy right here, this little blue
Yason?
guy, yeah, this was the learnings from Pogo. And I think I also, for inspiration, I think Excal's Augur, I think I used before this. So some similarities there. But this is now my go-to starter miner. And I also learned all the thrust in the rear. So if you look at this one, you get all the thrust is basically in the rear
Yeah.
for agility purposes. So there you can see some evolutions in how I was building and where I was putting the thrusters.
So carbon fiber.
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't really matter on a docile planet.
Yep.
Um, yeah, this looks really efficient. Looks like it's going to turn around within its own footprint and for a good hole. What's the cargo capacity on this?
Almost 5,000, I think. I'll look really quick. The harvest is 47,
Okay,
almost 4,800.
not too bad. What's the core spawn?
It's core one. It's a core only build. So this is
Nice,
a starter SV.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Percy's Destroyer. This is when I looked at this thing, I was like, okay, this has got to be a CV, but no.
This is an SV.
Yes.
Uh, this was, I think, God, was it my first replica or attempt at a Star Destroyer, right? Everyone knows
Yeah.
Star Destroyers. That was obviously the influence in that. I actually built this. Some people don't like what I'm gonna. I actually built this for the Ascension scenario when I played that for a period
Yeah.
because there they had SVs just juiced to the teeth. I could take this SV no problem and just I kill CVs with it. I could wipe planets with it. It was super overpowered because their thrusters were overpowered. But that's where I built it. And then I stopped playing that scenario and I think got pulled off the workshop and whatnot. And then I decided to see if I can convert it for like RE2 in vanilla, and I was able to. I actually had this spawned in in RE1 in vanilla. I
Yeah.
had this spawned in RE1 for a while, and I warped around in it and stuff like that. It's a fun ship. Is it functional? Could you use it for combat? No, not necessarily. But I love that ship. I love the back of it. I just kind of like some of the block work that I've done with it. That's actually one ship.
Yeah.
Um,
So it's got a big
Percy's.
hangar.
Yeah.
CV scale hangar up in here.
I spawned my RE2 version right behind it. That's not on the workshop. I was just working on this the other day.
Have you
Um,
have you built anything for RE Atlantis? The Atlantis?
no, I've never played that scenario.
Yeah. Apparently that's got a lot more options and different upgrade paths.
But like this, are we on a? Oh no, this is not the right one. Hold on. This one. So I see I got a lot of builds. Sorry. It's this other one. So this was the RE2 modified one. Yeah. That I was working on. It actually I think it's doable. It's 53,000 CPU. You could fly it as is. Put a couple of fusion reactors up the front here. The little blue glowies are coming out of the fusion reactors.
Nice.
I was just working on this the other day, just seeing if I could get it to work in RE2. Not to be a functional battleship, but just could it fly?
Curious what I can spawn in here. Let's see.
Oh, you can spawn ships in here. Um, we got the gold digger.
I'm seeing what I can spawn in. Oh, wait, you already got something in there.
Let me lower this really quick. Oh, Oh, Empyrion jankiness. Yep. But yeah, you can actually fit 3 ships inside of there, three SVs. I made a gold digger, which is this one. Obviously, it's a miner. I made a silver salvager, and then I made a woodwhacker. So you could salvage, you can mine, and you could harvest wood, and all 3 of them fit inside the hangar at the same time.
Nice.
Yep. Making a mess of your playfield here. You had it so neat when I came here.
Yeah, it was kind of a mess. No. The ships weren't lined up right. I had to look
Yeah.
away from that. Terrible.
Yeah. No, but this was a really fun build for me. Just it was a like I said, a replica build. I just really enjoyed it. I just thought with all the building, and obviously at this point I'm building kind of for fun as well, like getting more of the RP aspects in there, and it was just a fun build to do.
Yeah. That's pretty good detail in the back there. Some
Yeah, thank
nice
you.
pipe work you got going on.
I was pretty happy with this. This is one of my favorite parts of all my ships. This back section, I really like that.
Yeah.
Some days my creative juices are working well.
Definitely got that wedge effect. Very nice. Yeah, I can imagine if you got like a server with no cap on weapons and CPU and stuff like this, this thing would be sick.
Because you could slam a bajillion turrets on it.
Right. The Soter do 6,000.
Yes. Yeah. So Soder Deuce. Soder was my original SV Core 9, I think, in RE1. The Deuce. So I kind of have a naming system for my builds. I don't know if you've picked up on it or not, but if I re-release a ship, I put Deuce in the name. So if there's an RE1 versus an RE2, the RE2 version is Deuce.
Yeah.
And then the 6000s is always my fully kitted out max core ships. So if it doesn't have the 6000, it's the base model. If it's got the 6000, it's the fully maxed out CPU version. Um, the reason why I use 6000, do you know why I use 6000?
Uh, I do not.
So when I was a kid, one of the shows I used to watch was Home Improvement. Tim the Toolman Taylor. Did you ever watch that show?
Yes, yes.
And every episode, Heidi brings out one of the featured tools, and it was always the Binford 6000. So when I was going to make ships, I wanted to give a little nod to one of my favorite childhood shows, and standing up to the Binford quality, I used the 6000 label on my ships, and that's where the 6000 comes from, as a reference to Home Improvement and the Binford 6000.
I never would have guessed that. I would have been left in the dark with that one.
I actually, if you go at the workshop, I have a 6000 collection, so I've always tried to organize my ships in what scenario they go for, and then I have a 6000 series, and I wrote a little blurb in there why I call them the 6000. But yeah, I love this ship. So this is one. So what I like about RE2 is you look at these rocket pods, and those just look sweet.
They do.
Like just the way they fit in there, the way they look, like that. Those pods look just. I love it. Um, it's got some of those flare launchers on the back, which I've tried to use. I just either I'm not using them correctly, or I don't know. But I didn't find them super effective, so I don't. They're on the build, but I don't love them. Um,
I think
it's got it.
they're most effective when you're moving away from something shooting at you.
Yeah.
And not so much moving towards something.
I think so. And maybe I just don't fly it right to get the effect. It's a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
I don't know. It probably works. Interior cabin, for the secure cockpits and passenger seating.
Oh yeah.
It's just kind of an overall like all around combat CV or SV.
That protected wall there kind of has like a dropship feel too with the multiple seating and stuff.
Yeah. And now you can do clone chambers. We got that in here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this was yeah, I've got a handful of SVs that I've built. I think you've got the one Thanatos, man, I haven't used that one in a long time. I got a few SVs that I built that I got to solder with,
Yeah.
and there's things I didn't like about them, like the flat bottoms. Um, this was, I think, the first combat SV, and I probably never actually used this one more than once or twice. There was another iteration after this one that I put out, Erebus. It was all black. That one was a little bit better, but I still didn't like it because it kind of had that similar flat bottom, wedged up top, if you will.
Yeah.
And then I kind of went back to the drawing board on solder and I tried to build it like a true ship. I actually think I had a picture that I was modeling some of it after, now that I think of it. So this is another one I probably used some influence from some picture I found online. But yeah, that's how this one came to be.
Yeah, I can see you really I like the so like with the light textures, I don't like an excessive amount, but this is a really good separation here, partition. It's not overly done. I think that's one of the things if I am ever no, it's not it's not always the case. I mean, sometimes going the opposite direction, like obviously with the Thanatos, like if you do some of the lines in great excess, it actually can look pretty decent.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, Thanatos was like, nah, I don't really like that ship anymore. Not something I'd build today. The back is very boxy. Like it's fine. It probably worked at the time, but you learn. Oh, the one thing that was really cool about Thanatos though is what you may not see is in the back. There's a hidden cockpit back here,
Oh yeah, okay, that's pretty
and
cool.
if you get in that
Oh
cockpit,
wow,
I think you get first person view
yeah,
along with little LCDs in there to give you some lineups. So that
targeting.
was kind of a little cool feature that I added to that one.
That is really cool. It's a protective line of sight. Hmm. Oh, moving over to the CVs here. We got the Plutus.
Ludus. Automated mining, dedicated automated mining ship. This one, I tell people I got lazy on this build. I actually got super demotivated about halfway through this build. Um, and the reason why I say that is because I got really motivated to do this front area where the cockpit is, all the glass, all that stuff. The interior is beautiful because I kind of like doing the interiors, but where I got lazy is the whole back of it. I kind of lost creativity on block work, so I just did these flat lines, basically these flat angles.
Yeah,
It's super like this is super easy to build in terms of once you know the angles to use, like just throwing all those down. And in hindsight, I maybe would do it a little bit differently, but it works. It's really good. I think when I initially built it, I wanted to make it more, I don't know, like separate the thrusters from the hulls and just do more like creative block work with it. But I don't know, during it, I just kind of got a little burned out. I finished up the hull and then I went interior, and I love the interior on this ship. Um,
yeah. I will say that's one thing about one of the features about your builds that one or two people within my faction appreciate. It's like the panorama of the cockpit, the
mhm.
expansive glass. That seems to be a recurring theme with your builds.
You know why I started using glass?
I
You're
don't.
gonna like this. You're gonna like this. So the reason I started using glass in my earlier builds is because you can't texture glass. It was less work to do. I'm like, I could put a glass wall here and I don't have to texture it. I'm using glass everywhere.
Well, there you go. Well,
So that's
it's
why I have glass walls.
yeah, it provides a good look though, man. Like you're in atmosphere, you can look up at the ceiling and
Yeah.
like see the sun and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
some people
oh,
really want that high visibility.
this cockpit I did intentionally build with a high visibility. But like a lot of my builds, you get like um, Moab and there's glass walls all over it. Or like
Hmm.
even in some of my other combat ships, I had glass walls on the inside, and that was part of that. Zeus has glass walls in it, and
Yeah.
when you go inside there, that was done to minimize the texturing I had to do.
I never would have guessed that.
But it also adds like details. I think it kind of looks cool. Like if you build the rooms correctly, you can actually highlight the room behind it. It actually kind of, in a way, adds a little bit of a flair to it. But that was why I started using glass.
Yeah. Like I think the framing looks good here with these 45 degrees. That looks really good, and of course, the layering with the glass, obviously, seeing the deco out there and stuff like that. Those little 45 frames on the outside, and this block work here looks really cool. But yeah,
Well,
so
thank you.
glasses, there's a 3D layering effect going on with the glass if
Hmm.
executed right. So.
Yeah, it's totally what I was thinking when I was using it for sure. That's what I meant to say.
So we got expansion space here.
Yeah. This must be the RE1 version, or is this
Yeah,
the? Yeah, this is the RE1 version. So the CPU extenders and stuff aren't in here. Just
right.
some of the things are missing, but yeah. And then I don't see the LCDs here. Oh, I see. You see the LCDs on this front window?
Yeah, the resource yields and
Oh yeah.
key resource locations.
Yeah, they weren't showing for me, but I had access to LCDs and they showed up. That was one thing I started doing, and I don't know if this was the first ship I did it or if it was the progenitor space that I think you have spawned as well, but just putting those notes so I don't have to remember where everything is. I started putting those in ships, and I really like that. That's helped me a lot.
People would appreciate something like that as well.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But otherwise, this was a dedicated automated mining ship. At the time, there were, I don't think, any on the workshop that were dedicated to automated mining, so I built one.
Yeah,
Just so so I could play it myself, so I could do it myself. I like to be self-sufficient and build my own stuff, so that's kind of why I did this one.
nice. Chonk. Love this
Bonk.
thing.
This was built for the Anvil. Did they do a Star Wars build challenge 1 month?
Yeah,
Yeah, this was a Ton Falk class escort carrier replica build, but it's backwards,
right.
intentionally backwards. It's more functional that way. But this was probably one of the first ones where I literally looked at a picture and I tried to make the hull very, very similar to what the pictures showed. The greebling, the textures, the different colors, all that stuff, I tried to make it very similar to that Tonfalt class carrier in a starter. It's an expensive starter, but this is a starter vessel.
Oh, nice.
I mean, it's a core, like in RE1, it's a core one. Well, I guess probably a basic CPU extender, level 12 unlock or something. I love this ship though. Obviously, you go from something like this to my earlier ones, and you can see my blockwork and piping and textures, and like you get the ceiling and some of these little things that are up here. I don't know who I saw this from, but I definitely didn't come up with this myself. You know. So yeah,
So we've got 9 by 8. Not bad. Pretty
yeah,
healthy farm.
yep. You can put like bigger shields in it, bigger. You can put some shield boosters in it. There's room for CPU capacity or CPU extenders in the back
Yeah.
if you're gonna add more CPU. So I think in like RE1 you get this up to like a core 6 or a core 7
Oh, nice.
from a starter.
Yeah. Interesting choice on the color. I would think like, if, for like a Star Wars emulation, it just would have gone gray with it.
I think that was the color of the picture I was looking at, right or wrong. I don't know.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's strange. I think a tongue falcon is kind of, well, I don't know. But it's
not.
cool though. I like the color. It's not too extravagant. So that's, we were talking about earlier with your color palette. I find like the variants of like the pastel colors, those are always good. They don't offend me.
Yeah,
And that's something I could say about like the Vermilion's new. I like the way he's gone with the Xerox, the new aesthetic with it. It's like they're not. I I would say like the reds that he had before with the Xerox were a little too much. So I like the pastel change there.
I kind of like the old reds.
Oh, really?
If I'm being honest. But like the new ones look cool too. Like he does really good work with his block work and texturing and just the visuals and like how it all fits together. Like I don't know how he comes up with that stuff, but it always looks really good. I don't know. I kind of like the old red, if I'm being honest, but the new one's good too. Like it's not that I think one's bad.
Yeah. Beauty's an eye of the beholder. So, the Fist of Lissa here.
Yeah.
Fleet build. How does that work out? Do you find some improved function with using like the fleet mechanic here, fleet aspect?
Oh, you mean like having these little pods on the side?
Right.
Yeah, so this build was for me, a bit of a min-max build. The reason why I put the pods out here was for a couple of reasons. Uh, yeah, you've got decoys in them both, and it spreads out the fire. Um, some people aren't going to like what I'm about to say, but so what I did when I built these pods is you have decoys in each one. It's a thruster and a generator, and they're in line with each other. Like if you go straight across the ship, they're the furthest forward decoys in the whole ship, but they're also the same ones. So what happens is I actually think those pods maybe confuse the AI targeting a little bit because when you're flipping around in space, inevitably, sometimes this pod on the left is going to be closer. Sometimes the pod on the right is going to be closer. And
Yeah.
as the enemy turret flips from target to target, it has to rotate. And sometimes before it rotates, the other one's closer. So it needs to rotate back. And it really, in a way, you're kind of cheesing the AI to not shoot at you as often because it's changing targets very frequently.
Interesting.
The other reason why I put them out there is on the sides is because from a rotation side, if you talk about degree per second rotation, with these being further out on the build, they technically rotate faster. Like if you're going to do a spinny type circle, so like so like from that regard, they actually move away from projectiles faster, and it's almost easier to avoid things because they're not in the middle of the ship, they're out on the outside, so like the
Okay.
rotation, they'll
Yeah.
move faster, if that makes sense, if I'm describing it well.
No, I'm getting what you're saying because something in the center line, it's not going to have a an orbit, if you will. A decoy on the center line, it's not going to have that big of an orbit.
Yeah,
Whereas,
that's a good way to put it.
yeah, whereas with them being on the extremes, then that's going to throw off the targeting. I get that.
Yeah,
That
so
makes
that's
sense.
why I put them out there. Initially, I didn't the little gold things in the front I added because Legacy, before they were updated, was doing so much penetration damage with the disruptors.
Yeah,
Now I don't know, I've debated taking them off. um I don't know. It still works. Like if you don't do a lot of spinny, these things will absorb a ton of damage. But if you do like spinny or agility, the weapons tend to come in on the side of it or behind it a little bit, versus straight in. So it's kind of like this ship almost works a little bit better if you don't move a lot. Move a little bit to make your non-heat seeking weapons miss. But heat seeking stuff, you kind of want it to come straight at you.
yeah,
And the rest of it's pretty straightforward. The nose is full of decoys. I put some leg armor in there. One thing I did with this is I put the manual weapon decoy backwards. It faces the back of the ship. And the reason I did that is so that way it doesn't show up in the weapon bar when you're sitting in the cockpit seat.
makes sense. Okay, yeah, I was wondering about that.
Yeah,
And
so
saying you
that's why I did that.
and that won't prompt the message of block fire and all that stuff.
Yeah, because that weapon I don't have anywhere else on the ship, so it's just a standalone light laser turret. So you
Yeah.
don't even it's not even an option just selected on your bar. It just doesn't show up.
Yep.
And then the thrusters, I spent a good amount of time, as much as I didn't want to put the thrusters where they were, but I try to min-max it a little bit because in RE2 things are so constrained. For me, I like to have a lot of agility, like fighter jet agility. So I spent a lot of time like just figuring out where the best spot was from an agility standpoint, and that's why the thrusters are where they are.
Yeah.
A lot of pitch, a lot of roll. People know that now. I think that's widespread known. And then obviously the turrets at the back, those modulateds, they just shoot better this way if they're vertical versus if they're on the face. So that's why I put them there.
Yeah, because there's no gun depression if you lay them down flat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but this build frustrated me so many times as I was going through it. I probably quit it like 5 times, but I finished it.
Mandatory drone hatch.
Yep.
I learned that lesson in drone space.
Well, so in my other ships, I never used to put a drone hatch in it
Yeah,
because I always have a door right in the cockpit. So like I would just stand by my cockpit and I would send my drone out the back door
right.
because you can open doors with your drone, and that was my drone hatch. But I got so many people complaining that I didn't have a drone hatch in my other ship. I'm like, well, just send it out the back door. So when I built this one, I made sure to put it in.
And it does have upgrade options, so
Yeah, this spawns at core 9, and you can get it all the way max core 17.
yeah, seeing that. And so now you still have a little bit of CPU left over since the CPU changes.
Oh yeah, there is extra CPU now. You're right. I could rework that and add a little more. But yeah, this is really, I mean, they talk about specialized ships. This can do everything in RE2.
So you're talking
Legacy,
Legacy and
Xerax,
yeah,
drones, everything.
yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't even matter at core 9. You can do drones or legacy at core 9. It doesn't matter. Take your pick.
that's great. Rated for Tavera.
Yeah, when you upgrade it,
Mm-hmm.
probably, I don't know what people, it depends your piloting skills.
Mm-hmm.
From a damage, like a penetration standpoint, this thing, I mean, it takes some damage, but I find the penetration to not be that bad on RE2.
Right.
You lose a couple blocks in a fight, but I remember I was taking more damage fighting a decimator with shield penetration than I was in an entire Tovera fight.
Yeah, they blow right through the shields.
hmm Yeah, so probably, I don't know, like, I don't know where I fought Tovera's at. Probably before the CPU upgrades, it was probably like a core, I'm going to guess 13, 14, maybe 15, somewhere in there. Some people can do it lower. It's just going to be a much longer fight. I don't like those long, slug it out fights with a low core ship because those get frustrating for me sometimes and they just get too long.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really good. Core 9. A lot of firepower for a Core 9 for sure.
Yeah. In hindsight, I kind of wish I would have left the medium plasmas off and just put lights on it because that's how I ended up spawning it in my last playthrough because mediums can get expensive to build.
Yeah,
But it's fine as is.
very nice.
Thank you.
Uh, so the Hyperions here, we have a pair of them. We have the light, and then of course the 6,000.
Yep. The Binford 6000. No. So the light was really an effort to make it spawnable on a server. When I started building this, I had no idea how big the size class was going to be. I actually thought I was going to be able to build the bottom ship for, I don't know, I thought it'd be spawnable on Anvil, which their limit is 21. I thought I'd get it in the upper teens.
Yeah,
Well, shortly after I got just the outside hull done, I was already in the upper teens without any like detailing or block work. So it became a point where I'm like, there's no way I'm going to keep this in the low 20s. So let me just build it out and just build it the way I want to. And then it got to the point where I was like, all of a sudden it's size class 30, it's size class 40. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then it started to get to the point where it was a little bit overwhelming to do all the details and block works and stuff on it. So like some rooms, the shield room, which is back left corner of the ship, I love the shield room, the details I did in there. I think it looks really good, especially in RE1 when you put all the shield boosters in here. This room looks really cool.
yeah,
It's one of my
nice encasements. Looks really awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's one of my favorite rooms probably of all the builds. But after I got done with this, some of the rest of it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm getting burned out on this build. So some of it, like, yeah, you look out here, and it's like putting blocks on top of it to add details.
Yeah,
Um, Straight line textures, which is probably a lazy way to do it, but that's what I did. Um, I mean, this one I probably spent 75 hours to build.
okay.
for the whole thing. And that was just like that was pushing my limits. But when I built it, I wanted something that was big enough that I could fit all of my ships in. I could dock. I actually sized it out to dock 4 combat ships to the top of it. So Soul Siphon, it would fit 4 of them.
Oh, nice.
Plus the interior could dock all your HVs, SVs. It's probably too big, for sure. But it was a fun build. I kind of like it. I've spawned it once or twice. It used to have more solar panels on it than it does now, but there are no solar panels here, so they're just empty spots.
Yeah, nice glass area at the front.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's really good visibility. That's always been important to me in ships is visibility.
Full visibility here too. Interesting. Some nice accents on it.
This wall, this angle, this is the first ship I've ever used this particular. Is it a 60-degree angle? I don't know. I'm bad with angles.
That's 22.
22. Okay.
Yeah.
I copied that. I'm pretty sure off of Tovera because I liked that kind of look. Or was
Yeah.
it a Tovera? Or was it something else? I don't remember where I learned that blockwork from, but it was an in-game ship because I didn't know that combination even existed. The bottom, I spent a ton of time
Oh
texturing and
yeah.
blockwork.
Wow. Oh yeah. That's a lot of insets.
Yeah, and that's really what I've just been. That's what I
Hmm.
focused on are insets. That's how I texture because I sometimes struggle with some of the other details and
Yeah.
stuff.
Insets and cut-ins. Really. Oh yeah.
Yep.
That's about proper for a carrier too. That's really good detail.
Well, thank you. I actually think I textured this on Twitch one day, like one of the only times I've ever
Oh yeah.
tried to use Twitch. I was on there for like 6 hours, and I think that's when I did the whole bottom. So if anyone watched me, maybe 1 or 2 people saw me doing it.
Yeah, if I'm doing something of this scale, you're talking like 14, 16, 18 hours for the bottom.
Oh yeah, that was just a couple. The texture itself was just a couple hours because I repeated the same textures on the same blocks.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Some
And then the light
interesting
was just chopped
combos.
out. Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah. And the light was just down to size class 21, so a lot of the stuff was just chopped off. All the glass was removed.
Yeah.
Maybe take 29 size classes out of a ship, and you got to give up some sacrifices.
A lot of the rounds were gutted.
Uh huh. Yeah. So it was really stripped out.
That's a hell of a reduction from 50
Yeah.
to 49 to 21. That's insane. Prometheus over here. This guy.
Yeah. That was one of my newest builds. It was an attempt to not replace Zeus, but give me something smaller.
Yeah.
And then this was a bit of a concept. I wanted to see how big I could make the ship and make it run fuel free. So I put all the plasma turbines in it, max plasma turbines, and then I try to use the smallest but antimatter thrusters I could. So they're small antimatter thrusts. It works actually really good as like a planetary lander for like HVs and SVs. It's not super awesome to carry an SV around or a CV around, but it is good to bring it because it can repair CVs.
Yeah. Hmm.
But this was kind of like how do I scale Zeus down or just build another kind of carrier type ship that's a mobile base but not nearly as big and stuff. I like this ship though. It was a fun one. I used it in my last playthrough. It kind of uses all the top end reforged Eden 2 stuff the big radar array, antimatter thrusters, plasma turbines, the CV repair pad. Again, more glass. Guess why I put the glass in?
Right? You don't have to texture. That's but it's just I love the look of it though when you're approaching these bridges to get this big glass panorama. I'm just not a fan of the big glass exteriors. That's the thing. I wish we had like a transparent glass block
Mm,
because when I do like bridges and stuff, I want them to look menacing with tightened visibility ports, at least from the outside. But I would want something like this from the inside with this big panorama. But
yeah.
we don't have something like a toggle transparency, so like maybe on one side of the block you can see through it, and on the other one you couldn't. You
Well,
know,
that'd be nice. Kind of
yeah,
like you have in the other glasses, like the smaller, the basic glass blocks have that one-way transparency or whatever.
right,
Yeah, that's
right.
good. Yep.
So if you do something like that, maybe one side looks like a steel block, and from the inside it's a clear window. That would be like one of my dream blocks fulfilled.
Yeah, for sure. I like the garden being in glass, even though it kind of maybe looks weird on a ship. Maybe that's a reference to Zeus where I have that glass garden. But I just like the ambiance of you have this full of plants of just being outside and looking outside.
Yeah,
Just adds a little bit for that.
yeah, kind of like a uh, what are like the hydroponic ships, like some of them in sci-fi have
Yeah.
like these glass domes or whatever. So it's sort of
Yep.
like that.
Yeah. I wish we had more shapes for glass.
Yes, yes,
Hence the solid corners, because that's the only corner I could put in there that actually looked okay. I'd rather do that in glass, but you can't because there's no glass piece for that.
yeah. So one of the things that strikes me about the Poros is like this front wraparound. It looks really cool.
Oh, thank you.
The Poros and the other family of miners that kind of have that aesthetic look really cool like that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think I did that. Gosh, what was the first one? I think it was where's my ships? I'm scrolling through. Yeah, there was three of them I did for Hermes was one of them. Where am I at here? My thing. Janus, yeah, this one. Yeah, there was a series that I did in RE1 that kind of had that same bowl miner look to it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like doing that. Just for me, that just kind of looks kind of cool for CVs. I like it. And then the cockpit just kind of sticking out here gives you just a fantastic view.
well, it's definitely what you want with a miner as well. So yeah, very cool like that.
This was a Poros, was a one-day build.
Really, that's cool.
Sunday morning, I put a starter block down, and by Sunday night, it was on the workshop. This was it.
Let's see, what is the capacity here?
About 1 million.
Oh wow, yeah,
It's got three 320s.
nice. Supplemental boxes in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, let's see, what is the CPU on this thing? 620, not bad. Core 7.
Yep. Super agile, really fast. I use Jay Randall has his Plutus CV miner. I used that for a while, and um, you know, it was a great miner. But the thing I didn't like about it was it used a lot of thrusters, but the smaller versions. And one thing I've learned over the years in my building is to use the biggest thrusters you can possibly use without overpowering it.
Yeah,
So in a lot of my newer builds, like this might only have one thrust to each side. It does. There's only one thruster on each side, and I'm trying to use the biggest ones I can to get the most out of them. But like this one, just with the thrust that's in there, it's super agile. It's fast. Um, Compact. I took some notes from Jay Randall's about how compact his was and how tight everything was. Made it a little bit bigger, but yeah, there was some inspiration for sure on building this.
So this is something I've seen here, the repair clip. That gets a little bit of play in the faction.
Yeah, this was. I actually got to give credit to Mr. Hot Pants. You've probably seen around Anvil before. He actually built something very similar to this, and we were doing a joint playthrough on the Ash server, and he built something similar. And I'm like, that's a really good idea. So I built one, very similar to his as well. Um, it's really nice. You just dock it to your ship. I mean, I have two docking pads, landing gears built into it, so you can dock it above it or in front of it. Um, you know, this light here, this would be something you should look at. You might appreciate this. This light here on the front of it, right here. Have you ever tuned a light into a laser pointer?
Oh, what? Oh, that's
So,
interesting. Look at that. No.
so I set that light up as a laser pointer so I know where to dock it.
Huh.
That light it hones in, and then if I find, like, let's say I want to dock it to the front, and I want to dock it right to this surface. It may not because of the faction, I don't know, but I can just go right up to it and see there it docks.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, man. I know. I never thought of that. Yeah, I've never even considered something like that. Of course, with like the whole docking thing with modules, setting up some sort of LCD system or something like that. But this is actually no, this is brilliant, man.
You just take the light itself, you change it to spotlight mode, you
Right.
change the angle down to like 2%, and you just
Mm-hmm.
max brightness, max distance, and bam, there it is.
That's okay. I'm rolling with that. I have a carrier
I,
here to build, so I'm gonna be running some modules with that concept. That's really cool.
yeah, cool. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think somebody else mentioned that. Maybe it was Garrettman or something like that. Mentioned it on the Anvil server or something
Yeah,
along those lines. And that's when he mentioned that. I'm like, oh, that's a really good idea.
that is really cool, man.
Thank you.
And then I think like if you have, I wonder if maybe like you have like an encasement of blocks on either side, will that turn the roundness into a like a little fine point? Hmm. I'll have to play with that. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's really helpful. I wish I would have thought of that, or whatever, years ago. But
Yeah,
anyway, there it is.
nice price point on it too.
Oh, and the other nice thing about the repair clip is, nice, whatever you want to call it. The the repair consoles, when you add ingots to them, don't actually gain weight.
Oh, really?
So you can put as much resources in the repair console as you want,
A
and
resource
and
dump.
this and this repair clip weighs a whole 200 tons, and it will never weigh more than 200 tons, no matter how many ingots or whatever you put inside of it.
Nice.
So kind of
A
infinite
cheat.
storage, probably a cheat or whatever. I
Yeah, a
don't
little
care.
cheesy exploit. No, that's
Playing
awesome.
by the rule. I'm just playing by the rules I was given. That's
That's
all.
yeah, that's right, man. So that brings us to Soul Siphon, one of the big daddies of the Movado lineup. Soul Siphon
Yeah.
and its family.
Yeah. I mean, you saw where I started with this. It's very similar. At some point, I trimmed it up though. Like, you can see the wings are more at an angle. I kind of trimmed off a bunch of block work on this compared to the original, but it's
Yeah,
very similar. Fancier, more details, more shapes used.
yeah,
Um, the thrusters on this, for sure influenced by the IMR when, Artemis had that one out a long time ago, was just getting them up and away from center. Um, Big hanger, which I guess in RE1 was just really used for all the shield stuff. So normally this would all be full of shields. You could fit 6 of the big shield capacitors in there, and then all the smalls and mediums. Yeah, this is the RE1 version, so not everything's in here, but oh, the warp drive's not even in here.
yeah. I see that.
A couple cockpits built into it in case you needed to be somewhere else, like if the cockpit got exploded, um, or whatever, like the top one. But yeah, there's a couple cockpits you can use to fly this ship. Otherwise, for the most part, it's a no frills, straight to the point, like most of my builds. Little RP value in here in some cases, but I put access to the core just in the off chance that you wanted to core your ship
Well,
for
so
some
it.
reason.
Well, no, that actually that's a great reason now, since with the changes to the scenario, we have new cores to put in, and that will provide more CPU.
Oh, that's right.
So that's the thing that we're gonna have to adjust to.
Making them all accessible.
Yep. So that's forward thinking that planned out,
Yeah,
or that panned out rather.
funny. Yeah, pretty straightforward CPU room. I like the cores in the back because they're generally really well protected.
Yeah.
I've never lost any in this ship. Heck, this ship, the corrupted dreadnought in RE1, I basically tanked the corrupted dreadnought with this ship and I beat it. Like
Nice.
the whole nose of this just takes so much damage in RE1, and with the amount of firepower along with the agility, um, I was never like I'm kind of okay with doing some of the avoidance spinning stuff, but I could never do like some people would go in and without taking damage they'd kill or a corrupted dreadnought over the course of like an hour.
I
I
I
took this in. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, I actually did that with that the Kayla's Deathwing I had. I think it was I think I had like two auxiliary cores over core 9, so it was like core 11 or something. And yeah, that was an hour fight, and the recharge on
Yeah.
that thing, if I missed a tick on getting in there fast enough, then that would really extend the fight. But yeah, that doing that, so it was kind of a spinny build. Is a bigger build, is definitely a spinny build, and like doing that is what sold me on getting out of the whole spin ship thing.
Yeah. It's not always the funnest to do spinny, but it helps
Hmm.
to avoid. But yeah, I went in there and I think it was about a 15-minute fight or so, and I just face tanked the whole thing, and I'm like, I'm gonna see what happens. Either I win or I don't. We'll see. And I beat him.
Right. And that's what people want. A lot of people want that, right? So something
Yeah.
practical, build like that. So, and it kind of harkens back to what I was talking about. It's like the idea of art is in the eye of the beholder. Like the variance of, some people want aesthetic, and some people want a pure function driven build, right?
Yep.
So this is where like a soul siphon steps up, because not everybody wants to spin around for an hour.
Yeah.
Just like get in there, get ugly, trade some blocks out, lose a couple turrets, but get it done.
Yeah. Or like if you want a ship that's not gonna blow up if you make a mistake. Like some ships are like they have the
Hmm.
razor thin margin where if you're not careful, if you lose your shield, you don't back out at the right time, you kind of get blown up. Like I've never wanted to build ships that are that fragile
Yeah,
necessarily, and I've wanted that tankiness to it just in case I make a mistake.
yeah. I could see that here. You get some spacing with the devices. That's something I do as well.
Yeah, interior, some of my ships will chain a little bit. Like,
Hmm.
the fusion reactors are separate, but like if you fill this with shield parts, like it could chain if
Yeah,
the interior blew up.
right. But they got a good amount of layering to get through to get to that point.
Hmm. Even these little green pills you see that are kind of floating out here, I put those there to actually provide more blocks so you couldn't puncture through into the ship in this area. Like these green pills were simply added for more blocks to absorb weapons,
Yeah,
absorb fire. And they work. Like they'll get damaged, they'll get blown up, but like the blocks behind it generally don't go away, which is good because that's really close to your shield room.
and then we move on to the Zeus,
The Zeus.
big boy.
This was a fun build. When I built this, I had no idea it was going to be like this. So this was an interesting build. I built the cockpit first. So the three things I built on Zeus were the cockpit, I built the boarding ramp, and then I put the mining room off to the side. I wanted those three things in the Zeus.
Yeah,
And then after that, I wanted a lot of storage, so I put the storage right above it. So where the storage containers are is the original spot I put those down. And then from there, I'm like, gosh, this is getting kind of big. And then it just kind of grew from there. Like I put the bottom of it, the first level, made it an asymmetrical build. I didn't intend for it to be asymmetrical. That's just how it was because I built the cockpit right here, and then I built the entrance ramp, which is shorter than the other side, or whatever. One side's longer than the other. And then when I put the extensions in, I had to, because in order to fit 320Ks in, actually the side with the CV deck ended up being higher because of the way I had to put the container extensions in. That's why there's a
Ah,
separated deck.
okay.
I didn't intend for that until after I put all the container extensions inside. And then I had the one side was higher than the other, so I'm like, well, I could do an offset deck. That looks kind of cool. And then I'm like, well, what if I want to take my CV with me? How big of a landing pad do I need for that? So I put my CV on top. And then all of a sudden I'm like, holy crap, I need a really huge landing deck. But if I'm going to do that, then I might as well build a bigger hangar off the back. So then I built a bigger hangar off the back. And then I'm like, well, I can't just have it, the one side. I got to do the other side. And then I, put the farm and everything else in there. But when I started, I had no intention of building a massive mothership carrier. It was intended to be a high G lifter to service auto miners.
Isn't that usually how it goes, man? The builds just keep blowing up, dude. Yeah,
So like if you, oh, sorry, go ahead.
that's so that's one of the cool things about this thing is how you land this thing on top of the auto miner. You're not having to endure like the volatile and hostile environments.
Yeah. And even like the cockpit, it's got those slider shutter doors right next to it.
Yeah,
Right. So you can just literally land right next to the miner and just access it from inside the ship and just take off.
I never knew those were there. That's pretty slick.
Have you seen the secret entrances underneath the passenger seats? The little
Uh,
slots in the floor?
really?
Where
Oh,
which
okay, that's slick, dude. Okay.
so if you're on a planet, you can actually get in that seat from right here.
I don't think anybody knew about that, not even my faction mates that fly this thing religiously.
Yep. And then I even put some force fields underneath it to seal that section off.
Hmm.
So that way, just in case Elion changed the logic, and this slotted block is actually considered airtight by Elion math.
Yeah,
So that's why I put the force field there just in case that changed down the road.
I never knew those were there.
Yeah. Every once in a while, they're good if you're on like a high G planet. They can be helpful to get in quick.
So you're re-upping on the
Uh huh.
encased medicals there, like what you have with your base.
Yep. After I built it, I'm like, I need to put medical in here, but this is a really big space for medical. What should I do with it? I'm like, oh, I'll copy Moab and I'll encase it in glass so I don't have to texture it.
And this thing was always cool. It's kind of like a I
Little
didn't
ball.
understand what was going on here. Yeah, right, exactly. But I always enjoyed the texture in conjunction with the icons.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's a combination of the texture and then the paint. I think there was something, and so like I was saying earlier, this is the one ship that I spawned other ships when I was looking at. There was something in one of the, I feel like it was the NPC ships that it was like this standalone random thing, just block work, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And it wasn't the same as this, but I had this empty spot here, and I'm like, what am I gonna do with this? So then I landed on this, and it's just always been there.
I've spent some time in this production room.
Yeah. Yep. You can take out some of the deco blocks and throw deconstructors in there. I've done that before.
Yeah.
Pipes. Pipes are influenced definitely by Spanish because he always says you need pipes. So when I built it, I definitely remembered pipes, and that's why there's definitely as many as there are.
Yeah. I think I picked that up on them. or from him as well.
Yeah. I really love the hangar and this vertical look. Again, nothing I intended. It's just as I built it, I'm like, that would be really cool just to leave this wide open.
Yeah, the kind of vaulted look. It is really cool.
There's cases in here where there's too much texture. Where if I would do it over, I'd probably flatten some things out, use less. Um, the exterior Zeus, that's, one thing people will say is there's just too many textures used, and there is. There for sure is. But you live and you learn.
Mm-hmm.
When I built Zeus, it was always like kind of my thought behind it was like the working man, right? Rough outside, but pretty, good on the inside.
Yeah.
So like I never intended this to be a beautiful exterior ship.
No, it
And I
it
also,
it has, there's a charm about it. I don't know what it is. It's like, is it kind of like a Blade Runner industrial or something, and then maybe like mixed with like an offshore mining rig. I think that's what I see with it. So
that sounds good. I'll go with that. I'll agree with that. Yep.
no, there's a charm to it, man. I don't know.
Well,
I
thank
think
you.
that's what it is. It's something like that. That's the
Oh,
feels I get with it. Kind of like an offshore rig, but like maybe like a Blade Runner setting or something.
mm, okay, yeah. Yeah, I play with Hot Pants, and he'll tell me it's ugly as sin, but it's brilliantly effective or whatever he says. And yeah, there's definitely some improvements. And that was also like it's a lot of blocky block work because I didn't know the transitions as well back then.
Yeah. It yeah, it just depends, like, aesthetic. It's like for some people things will ring true. Like,
Hmm.
like I'm saying, that's the charm about it. Like, um another reference like for me is like with Star Wars, like the Nebula B frigate. I don't know if you're familiar with that ship.
No.
Yeah, so it's like it's this vertical build within the universe of Star Wars, and it just didn't make sense. It stuck out like a sore thumb the way it is, and um as a kid growing up and watching that thing, I'm like, damn, that thing is ugly. But as the decades went on, it's just something about it, man, just grew with me. And as hideous as I thought it was, that thing just turned out to be beautiful. There's something about it. And like I look at this thing and it's just got some really strong industrial vibes that remind me of again, like with offshore rigs and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, that's a good perspective for sure, and I appreciate that. This was a build I started on a Sunday morning, and it was on the workshop on Thursday
Yeah.
of that same week. Yep, I thought it was a pretty quick build.
Mm-hmm.
I get in these moments where it's like I'll start building, and then all of a sudden I just take off and I just like build like crazy. And this was one of those builds that just once I started putting blocks, they started going out there, and pretty soon I had the whole ship done. Like I had the whole all done in one day.
Yeah. It's the bottom work here. It looks like something Jay Randall would do.
Yeah. I definitely had influence from Jay Randall on the bottom. Same as the carrier deck, because I used the Helios before this.
Yep.
And what I didn't like about the Helios is the modules, and having everything separated in different units. So when I went to build this, I lacked the creativity on how do I do a bottom? Like, what do I do with this? And that's where I kind of looked at the Helios itself and how did he do his. And same as even like the carrier deck. Just how he put different textures kind of scattered in there, different colors, different shades.
Yeah.
A lot of that, the little cut-ins that he did in his carrier deck, I put in here as well. So that was the bottom and top were very heavily influenced by the Helios for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely got that strong industrial vibe. Very cool. So Zeus Deuce, obviously the upgrade version of it, some modifications done there.
Yeah, that's just the RE2 versus the RE1. Everything else is pretty much the same. It has. I took away some of the textures. I added more block work. I made room for the RE2 stuff, but by and large, it's the same ship.
Yeah. Shalom.
Yeah, that was the dedicated progenitor ship. So with this one, I wanted to do something as compact as possible to collect progenitor fragments out. to get all your fancy stuff. And the concept here was I wanted it small and compact, but I also wanted a way to quickly go from the cockpit out to get the fragments and right back in. So that's why you got that quick ladder to get out to the front out here. You run out, you collect your fragments, you come back, and you go back in and you fly away. Try to make it as small as I can. This is probably the most Stan influence build I have, if you can't tell.
Yeah,
Um,
the blue.
but like the blue itself, I like blue. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's in a lot of my ships. But like the block work and just he had some things that he would do with like the power storage, the deco units. Um, there's just some things like even where this turret is, I think he would do some block work similar to this in some of his as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely influenced by Stan on this one.
Nice and simple. Almost kind of like a turtle or something. Like is it
Yeah.
the vibe to it?
Well, Chelone is I think it's a Greek god of turtles or tortoises.
Oh well, there you go.
Yep. Because I think I looked at him like this looks like a turtle. What's the Greek god of turtles? Chelone. That's how it got its name.
The Atlas here, this kind of a variance or a breaking away of your color choice. I like it though.
It's the same color, the same base color as the Poros Minor.
Okay.
So that dark blue, yeah, it's I kind of mixed up as one of those ones after I built it. I'm like, I'm gonna go with dark blue, and I was just on a dark blue kick. Um, yeah, I like this color though. It's one of my favorites.
Starter?
It was a concept again, another kind of a concept build to see if I could use plasma turbines and run the ship for free.
Yeah.
And it does that. I mean, you can fly for free. You can hover in atmosphere. It probably isn't even using any fuel right now.
Nope.
Maybe it is. I don't. Yeah.
Negative
And all the
1.4.
and all the thrusters are on.
What a beauty.
Yep. Put your garden in there. This is a great starter ship. It's got a little mount point underneath the cockpit for a um, drill turret. And I think it. Did I put a harvest controller? No, I did not. You'd have to swap out one of these container controllers for a harvest controller to harvest stuff, but it's a really good starter ship. Really cheap. Straight to the point.
I like the vibe with it. Really cool.
Thank you. Yeah.
Let's look at a price point. Yeah, everything under 5K. Neo at 1700. Very nice. Miner 69er, yeah, that's I love this thing, man. This really got that strong industrial vibe. Obviously
Thank you.
the
The
name's
exposed
fun.
generators. Yeah.
I
The name is obviously influenced by 7 Days to Die.
yeah. No, I don't generally see like a miner with an interior here, so this seems to be a breakaway. Is this almost could be like a starter or something, or with an
This is a starter CV. Yeah,
yeah.
that's how I use it. This is my first spawn in a lot of my playthroughs. Um, I dock SVs to the roof of it, and then in the cockpit seat, there's a shutter door right above the cockpit itself, and I can just open that shutter door and hop up to the roof. So
This
yeah,
is a beauty.
this is almost always my starter vessel in my playthroughs, just because it's a starter and it's a miner all at the same time.
Yeah. This is the full package, man. This is to get you going right away. Hmm.
Don't run into hostiles because it will spectacularly explode.
Yeah, it's, we get. I can see that for sure. Is this coming with a shield? We have anything? Yeah,
Yeah, it's got a
6K.
shield.
All right, so compact. Okay.
Really, the shield is for drones. If you run into a couple drones, you can handle them. Anything else, and you are gonna have a rough time.
Yeah. Got the generator on the outside.
Hmm.
efficient and effective.
Yeah, for sure. Dude, these mechanical drills are underrated. I think people know about them now, but like 4 drills like this definitely out drills tool turret.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, these are way faster than 1 drill turret.
Damn.
The only downside is you can't burrow well in asteroids, so it's really good for scraping the outer edges and getting like big chunks and big areas out. But some of the asteroids, like the resources, are kind of more in the middle, and these don't always work well if you have to get inside the asteroid. But some asteroids, I tell you what, it is fast. If you've never used the 4, you should try it against an asteroid once. They're pretty good.
Yeah, I've used like one and been skeptical about it, but so maybe with a complete four, maybe that would be worth it.
Yeah, and it's a core 1 build.
But so that's a good thing with these drills here is that you're I guess you could say lack of better words, you're cognizant, being in the first person because with the drill, you can't see what's going on and you might get popped by something that jumps in. So there's the advantage of that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because you're always in your cockpit seat.
Mm-hmm. You're ready to roll out. Something bad
Hmm.
happens. All right, so I'm gonna swing back over here to the Hyperion light with the we got some HVs on top of it.
Oh yeah, the HVs.
We've got this just some massive tanks over here, man. Just ridiculous. Are you big into Warhammer 40K?
I've never played that game, and I know somebody else you just heard said they didn't even know what it was. I
Didn't
know what
even
it
know it
is.
exists. Yeah.
I know it exists. I know what it is. But I've had other people comment that some of my builds look like Warhammer 40K builds,
They
and
do.
it's not that I've never played Warhammer 40K. I've never looked at content. I don't even know what their builds look like. I just happen to, in some cases, apparently build like their style.
Yeah.
Um,
Something
yeah,
like you would make some Orcsies proud for sure with some of
mm,
these.
yeah. I like big explosions over the top. Um, I like the philosophy there is no kill, and there is no overkill. There's only kill.
Space Marine.
Yeah.
Um, so the Demeter here, man, this is multifunction, obviously, cutting down some trees, and looks like you can burrow a complete hole that you could turn around in the ground.
Yep. Yeah, it was this was my first attempt at a combo HV. It works well. You can actually put I think 3 drill harvesters on the front. If you remove these little pointy blocks at the front, you can put, 3 harvesters here. So it'd be really good if you wanted to.
Hmm.
Um, but HVs kind of suck, honestly, for drilling.
They
So
do, yeah.
that's the one thing, with RE2 that kind of drives me a little crazy is the HVs in the early game. Like that's a lot of times your first miner. Um, I don't love HVs just because of how hard they are to maneuver on planets, but it's
Yeah.
fine.
If they finesse that, they'd be much more approachable.
Yeah.
The Eunomia, man, this thing,
Yeah.
this is a monster.
I love this tank. It was sized to fit inside the Zeus hangar.
Oh, really?
Barely.
Okay. So
Barely.
you're like, okay, let me see what big of a monster I could squeeze in there.
Uh-huh. Super effective. With where the thrusters are, it's optimized for agility. Um, Hover engines right in each pod is pretty straightforward. I like the interior on this, although even as I built it, I still had to cram so much stuff into the roof and in the interior in here. But I really like the ship. This obviously is green. I don't do a lot of green. Um, I did do some like accent lights underneath it to give it like underglow a little bit.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then I did these little turret pods in the top just to clean it up. Just to get the turrets consolidated so they're not stuck everywhere on the ship. It kind of reminded me of like little robot pods or something like that.
Yeah. You sure you're not an orc war boss?
I don't think so. I mean, when
Yeah.
I played Skyrim, I played as an orc, so who knows? Maybe it's kind of in another life.
Yeah, this thing is. I bet this thing is just belligerent to destroy. Like so many blocks to block density, man.
hmm I think it's all combat steel, and there's like a bunch of decoys built into it.
Yeah.
There's like decoys, I think, in each of these little,
Yeah, I see
like,
it.
call it the wheel pods, and then there's another one inside somewhere too. There's like, oh yeah, you see those, but if you go lower, there's one right inside here,
Oh
thruster
yeah.
and a generator.
Yeah.
So they'd have to blow those out before they even get to the ones inside of there. So it's just,
Yeah,
I'd like to focus on, like, multiple target points to
right.
diversify, like, and that's this.
Just park this thing in front of a sector command and go run a Taco Bell. That works it over.
This would get wrecked in Taco Bell. I actually tried, like, so not to jump ahead, but Anacetus over there, that big one, that cannot solo attack sector command.
Really?
Like, and just because your shields go down so fast,
Mm-hmm.
it just rips the whole front off of it. Like, and it's not optimized turret placement either. Like, there's a lot of turrets that are hidden on this that don't get forward fires. But anyway, sorry I
Yeah.
jumped ahead a little bit.
Well, that's fine. We're here now. This big ass Land Cruiser.
Yeah, that was modeled after a picture.
Really?
This, yep, everything except for this top round back part. I actually still have the picture. The rest of it is a damn near replica of something I found online that I really liked. I knew it was going to be big and over the top, and that's what I was going for.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
How much CPU do you have to spend? Yes,
All of it.
114,000. That's like a Core One CV. This thing is
Oh yeah.
nuts.
There's a lot of stuff missing in here because was this for RE1 maybe?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's some stuff missing in there, but yeah, I love this tank. I wish I could use it more, but I get it. It's OP.
It's massive, just absolutely massive. What? Wait a minute. Is there multiple layers to this thing, or is it just this one level? I guess.
Uh,
Yeah, I guess it's just the one level.
yeah, there used to be. Yeah, it's just one level. There used to be a second level inside of it, but I think when I had to convert it to RE1, I think I had to close that off and do something with it. I forget why. Generators and containers maybe.
Yeah.
Yep. This was another one that I originally built for the Ascension scenario because I could literally build this in Ascension as like a 4-9 build,
Yeah.
which is way overpowered.
So I love also this Four Loco. Uh, really cool light work there. Nice light textures.
Oh,
It
thank you.
looks
Yeah, this was built.
like a
Oh, sorry.
giant connecting chain or something. Just the whole system
Yeah,
looks really cool.
this was built for the Anvil Pod Racer Challenge or
Yeah.
Pod Racer event a couple of years ago. Way overpowered on thrust, but it won. So, haha.
uh, the glow in the middle, that's cool because like the pod and the actual Star Wars, it's got that little thing connecting it, so good representation there.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you noticed that because that's why I put that there. Was kind of like the little zapper thing in the middle. I don't know what it's called, but yeah.
Hmm. And then so here we are with the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, you got it. The heebie-jeebies,
Yeah,
exactly.
like I spawned them in sequence. I'm like, it was. I was like looking at this, like, was this Habe? And then I spawned the other one, and I was like, okay, this guy's got a
Uh-huh.
sense of humor. All right.
So Hebe is a Greek god,
Mm-hmm.
and what I didn't like about Hebe was that it was a little bit more expensive than I wanted. I wanted something really cheap. So then I kind of dumbed it down to this one, and then I'm like, gosh, what do I name this one? I just named that one Hebe, and then I'm like, oh, Hebe Jeebies. Perfect.
uh,
But yeah, GBs is I actually use GBs in RE2. Like it's a really good starter. It works in RE2.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic first build because it's got both things built into it.
Nice little pair right there.
Yeah.
Anomalous.
Yep.
Cool.
Um,
But going
yeah.
with the ancient cockpit here.
hmm
I both love and hate this thing. Like I don't like all the glowies that are inside of it, but I like the geometry of the cockpit itself.
I like when I'm sitting in it, I like all the displays in it. That's kind of why I pick it.
Oh yeah.
Because all those unique LCDs, but yeah.
I think it's too much. If there were less, you
Mhm.
know, then maybe
Yeah, fair enough.
personal taste.
Yeah. Otherwise, I like to do that vertical harvest module. It's more efficient than putting them horizontal.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, because like okay, so the way these harvest modules work is every block is a hit. So like a harvest module is 5 blocks long. If I put it vertical, all 5 of those are hitting a tree simultaneously, so like kind of like 1 or 2 shots a tree. Versus
Really?
if you put it horizontal like this, you'll only get like out of the 5 possible hits on the width, you only get like 2 or 3 hits on this. So by putting it vertical, you end up almost doubling your speed of harvest
Wow.
because the entire bar hits at once versus just a couple hits on your horizontal harvest module.
Hmm. I
And
had
then
no
you go to
idea.
yeah, and some trees are like 3 blocks wide too.
Hmm.
They're not 5 blocks wide, so you never use all 5 of a harvest module when it's horizontal.
Yeah.
And the Philomulus X3 maximizes that. You put 3 of them side by side, and you literally one-shot trees.
Interesting. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Okay. What kind of capacity are we looking at here on these guys? Just about 5,800. Not too bad. It's quite a few trees.
hmm Especially for a starter. Like, you get on a starting planet, that's plenty.
It is. Very much so. Let's see here. Let me change the daylights.
This is probably my favorite wood harvester, this guy, Sylvanus.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
This is the 6000, so naturally the fully upgraded one. There's a lower core one, but what I like about this is I
Holy
put the core to the side, or the cockpit to the side.
This thing is a monstrosity, huh?
Dude, you want to level a rainforest in like 5 minutes? This will do it.
Yeah. You're like going from level 1 to 25 instantaneously.
Yeah. I mean, I think I can. God, what is it like? I don't know. You can. Oh gosh, I think it would took me
Deforest the
like
planet.
pretty much in like 10 minutes. You can fill up 32K of wood.
Oh, beautiful.
Yep.
Hmm.
The Kratos. I don't know that I've really ever used this more than once or twice. It was kind of an attempt to get a starter HV to like do early game combat, but like against POIs. But I never use it. So, um, yeah.
It's I don't what am I looking at? Is that like a speedboat look to it or something? I'm trying to it has like
Mm,
a familiar geometry to it. I'm just trying to place it.
yeah.
It's like a race car or speedboat or something.
hmm Yeah, I could see that for sure.
Really cool. Got a little sneaky compartment here for some upgrades. Respawn chamber, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like those little twin humps, if you will. Really,
Yeah.
really cool too.
Thank you.
All right, so let's go ahead and make our way over to the bases. be over land here.
Where I made a mess of ships.
Yeah. So this is a big thing here, the massive dump.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
s-
this
right.
is just no unlock points.
Yeah, we with the change to RE2, I guess we lost our typical wafers and stuff, and so this is the first thing that popped up for people to sink stuff into.
Mm. Yeah, it works really well just because there's no unlock points. The second you hit the ground, you can chuck it in the factory and start loading your stuff in.
Mm-hmm. Even
Spent a lot of time texturing it too.
yeah, I could see that, man. Even has some nutrient solution in there.
Uh-huh. Grow plots. Was it grow plots, clone chambers? I think clone chambers is where the cobalt comes in.
Yeah.
The stone blocks, um, Xeno, combat steel, hardened steel, regular steel, plastic blocks, fridges, lots of clone chambers.
Lot.
Yep.
Oh yeah, very nice. Yeah, that's I don't know if anybody's made another wafer. That if that's just it, everybody's using that.
I don't know. I thought you people didn't Stan come out with a new one for RE2 or no?
Did he?
His his cube? I thought he did.
Okay. This is the only one I've known
But
about, so maybe that has been the case. I just haven't seen it.
I think all the other ones that I've seen, I think there are. I think the other ones that I've seen have all required unlock points,
Okay.
like level 7 or something like that. But
Yeah.
then at level 7, you can probably get Neo and maybe Zask and Restroom in there.
True.
That's what's missing in here. There's no Neo, Zaskosium, or Restroom.
So we have our solar quad furnace over here.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool. Really cool design.
Thank you. And then
Is there enough solar here for all these furnaces to run?
in RE1 there was. In RE2, you probably need to add a couple more solar panels. I could probably update the blueprint.
Yeah.
Um, right next to it is another version for decons.
Oh, okay. Oh
It's
wow.
called the decon. The decon ate it. There's 8 decons in it, so the decon ate it.
Wonderful.
Eight, eight individual terminals. What it stands for.
And then also a play on words with the decon eating the devices and breaking them down. Yeah, so it's like it's hitting you at so many layers, so many levels. It's in 4 dimensions. It's attacking you.
Yeah, this one you can see I added more solar panels to it because you needed it. But yeah, I was pretty proud of that name. That was one of my favorite names.
Your moment of brilliance. Very good, Movado. uh, I like it, man.
Thank you.
Some nice, it's not just a cube. There's some nice shape to it. It looks like an entity that would be of interest spawn in space. And yeah,
Yeah.
I especially like the furnaces ringing. It looks really cool.
Well, thank you. Yeah. And with RE2, the way power draw is, I actually had both of these spawned in when I played RE2, and that was my go-to because everything costs so much power
Yeah,
that if you get 2 independent bases running separately, you just Wi-Fi into them, drop all your stuff in, pull it out. It just kind of spreads out your power load. So it kind of like you're asking before in Moab, is it viable? Well, kind of is, but like if you put these little bases out there, that's all you really need.
right.
And then a much smaller base than Moab.
Auto miner teleporter hub.
Yeah. That was so I didn't have to fly back to the planet all the time to refuel my teleporter or my auto miners. Um, so yeah, I mean, pretty straightforward. There's just a little door, you teleport in. There's a container controller to hold all your stuff. The little catch was put below it. I don't know if you were playing at this time, but do you remember when you'd teleport and you'd end up in the block underneath the teleporter?
Vaguely. Okay, so that all right. I see you got a fix for that. Hmm.
Yeah, this was the fix for that. So that way, if you ever teleported, you didn't get stuck by just putting that tunnel underneath.
Yeah.
You just drop below it, and then you could get out.
My issue with teleports revolve around like being teleported randomly out into some space sector in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I've never really so much run into an issue where I spawn into the block below it.
I think that issue's been fixed. The issue you're talking about, I think, has been fixed as well. For some reason, they hard coded frames per second to 30 frames per second while you're teleporting, and that fixed the issue. I don't know
Oh,
why.
wow.
And
Huh.
then same as on the personal side, like if you change your computer, you turn off VSync and you limit your computer to like 30 frames per second, um, it would have fixed the teleport issue back then. Almost like 99% of the time, it fixed the teleport issue. Why?
Wow.
I don't know. So Elyon put that in the game now. So anytime you teleport, if you turn on your frames per second counter while you're teleporting, it'll cap at 30 now.
Well, that's awesome that they fixed that.
Yeah. But yeah, this just instead of spending like I was spending, when I first started playing, you'd spend half hour, 45 minutes hitting all your planets and getting the auto miners and refueling them, and now it's just teleport, teleport, teleport. Okay, I'm done in 2 minutes.
Yeah. Was this? I think Spanch had a challenge for like some entry turrets. Was this part of that?
No, this was just a build I did on my own, just to build a defense turret tower.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it wasn't part of any challenge or anything like that. Obviously it tells you where to bury it to. With solar panels underground, due to alien logic, they may work underground,
Yeah.
so that's why they're there.
Now, if you don't angle them appropriately, then yeah, they may not work. However, if you put them underground, they will.
Yeah. The fun thing with this is in like RE1, none of your PPVs or patrol vessels are shielded.
Hmm.
So you can put one missile turret on the top of here, and I've done this before. Like I've had a PPV come to our base. I threw a missile turret on here, and it took out the patrol vessel, no problem.
The Sunat?
Yeah, Sunat, yeah,
How's
in
that?
RE1.
How
Well,
did?
not in R. It was RE1. What do they have in
Oh,
RE1? The
oh, let's
is it
see.
beginning with the K?
Uh,
No,
um, the
was it the
The
Kavera?
Kuvera.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it'll take those out no problem with the missile because one base missile will outrange the Kavera,
yeah.
and it'll knock them down. So it was like the one stop solution to defend your base. But
Oh, that's cool. Uh, are we missing anything from our look through here? Anything that you wanted to show us that we may have not covered?
I don't know. There might be I mean, I got that solar starter base, which I think a lot of people probably use. It's a small base.
Yeah,
This is a really good starter base. It complements the solar furnace and the decon 8 it really well. You can spawn them all right near each other. So I love using this. But other than that, like I think he covered most of it. Probably. I mean, I've got a lot of stuff in my things, so I'm sure there's a
yeah.
few missing.
Oh
But
yeah, there was a good portion of your library that we get a chance to look at. But yeah, anybody
yeah,
watching, if you want to check it out, check out the links in the description or in the pinned comment below to check out his workshop.
cool. Well, thanks for having me. This has been, kind of a lot of fun just chatting to get to know you. I mean, you and I think have traded messages a couple times in the past, and obviously
Yeah.
seen you around. So it's been good just to kind of chat and stuff like that. And thanks for having me for sure.
Oh yeah, nice meeting you as well. Yeah, so like I had mentioned before, I definitely wanted to get you in. I would have done it sooner. Just last year was kind of on the downside for me and set things back, so didn't get to you sooner.
Oh, hey, no worries. I'm just, like I said, I think I was saying earlier, I'm just honored that you'd have me. I mean, like, I tell a lot of people, I look at myself as just an average guy that plays games, and like, it's cool that people look at my builds and they like them, and whatever. So like, that's all fun. I like
Yeah,
talking about this stuff.
right. So the approach of art isn't always about aesthetic. There's a lot of other things involved with it. Some people will find a particular thing charming. Like for example, the Zeus. some people may get it, some people may not. A couple people within my faction absolutely love it, and I love the outer industrial vibe that it has with it, and it's just everybody has their own taste with things.
Hmm.
With you, some of your particular builds, the people that they really like them and swear by them.
Yeah.
Um,
And I like that. That motivate. That always motivates me to do more. It's just some of that, like I was saying earlier, that positive feedback. It's motivating. So
yeah, we have a big sliding scale in Empyrion with what's art for people. For some people, it might be a big luxury ship made by Crazy Z, or it might be an
yeah,
optimized performance machine built by Artemis, and or maybe something in between at a J Randall, or and you're well within that spectrum as well of what people would want to see in their builds.
yeah. Well, cool. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, and then of course you contribute to Empyreon with the content creation side as well. So
I try
uh
to show people what they want to see and try to cut to the chase and whatnot. So
yeah. Any last words? Any parting words with the audience?
no, thanks everyone. It was good to kind of do this. Yeah, no, it's been good to walk through. If you're looking to get to know me, I have a Discord as well. Feel free to pop by and say hi if you want. Otherwise, no, thanks for tuning in. Always let me know if you have any questions. Don't be shy. I always like hearing from people and questions or feedback and comments you might have. So thanks everyone.
Wonderful. Any words of encouragement or advice to any aspiring builders or content
I
creators?
I mean, from a builder side, you all saw my first CVs and they absolutely sucked. So, like, don't think you can't get better because you saw the progression of where I went and where I got to. So, like, it just takes time and practice. From a content side, you got to do what you love. If you don't like it, you can't, don't do it. Like, I was saying before, this is a hobby for me, and I'll only do it as long as I view it as a hobby. If you want to do it as more of a full time, that's cool too. A lot of people do a really good job with it. Just make sure you love what you do.
Yeah. All right, that's it, folks. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Artist Behind the Art with Movado. Until next time, LyfeForce out. Hey, folks, if you enjoy my content, please consider becoming a patron today. As a patron, you gain access to exclusive builds not featured on the workshop, early access builds, as well as participate in a number of things, including polls, feedback, comments, suggestions, ideas, or anything you'd like to submit to current and future builds. If any of this appeals to you, please consider becoming a patron today. Link in the pinned comment below. Thank you.